Chapter 820. This cultivation technique had never been tried by anyone since it had been stored in the Red Blood Palace. As he concentrated his mental energy, the virtual image of a person holding a sword appeared. It was a tall and slender woman. At first glance, he thought it was Bing Wuxin, but her temperament was not as cold and ruthless as Bing Wuxin's. Instead, it was very gentle, like a small bridge with flowing water. "Do you want to challenge me?" the woman on the wall asked. Her voice was simple and pleasant to listen to. Su Yu nodded. "Yes." The woman on the wall nodded. "Fine, I'm just a virtual image. I will only use one move, and you only have one chance. If you can defeat me, the challenge will be considered a success." "I understand. Let's begin." Su Yu nodded. The woman pulled out the sword on her back slowly. Her temperament, which was just like a small bridge with flowing water, suddenly changed. It was swift and fierce, like a hot knife through butter. At this moment, she seemed to have turned into a long sword in her hand, looking down on everything and destroying everything. Su Yu was shocked by the peerless sharpness. He could feel that his opponent's cultivation was the same as his, but the sword intent that erupted from her was earth-shattering. A sword from the west. The woman's virtual image thrust her sword at him. Her movements were slow, without any fancy moves or technique. It was just a simple thrust of the sword. However, when facing this sword, Su Yu felt as if the entire world was filled with this sword, and he couldn't avoid it or escape from it. He was shocked, but he no longer hesitated. A dragon shocks the heavens. Su Yu weaved signs with his hands, and demonic energy surged from his body. His chest was boiling hot, and he let out a loud dragon roar. At the same time, a black dragon that was 100 feet long flew out of the space in Su Yu's body. A savage aura, a ferocious murderous energy, and the majesty of the dragon race filled the secret room. Even Su Yu was astonished by such a powerful aura. This demonic dragon was stronger than he had imagined. Moreover, it gave Su Yu a familiar feeling, as if he had felt this demonic dragon's aura somewhere before. The sword and the dragon collided in a shocking manner. The sword energy pierced through the demonic energy like a rainbow, destroying everything in its path. The demonic dragon roared, and its boundless power collided with the dense sword energy. Buzz, buzz. The whole illusory fighting room trembled slightly. The people in the fighting rooms outside were startled, and they couldn't help but look at Su Yu's fighting room in astonishment. The expression of Tianren Yao, who was teasing a handsome man, suddenly froze. His eyes shone brightly as he looked at the fighting room, and a shocked expression appeared on his face. Such a big commotion? What is Su Yuxin doing? Inside the room, the demonic dragon and the sword qi intertwined and destroyed each other. The illusory figure stood unscathed and said calmly, "It's a draw." Neither side could do anything to the other, so it was naturally a draw. As soon as the voice finished speaking, the phantom dissipated. In a sense, Su Yu's failure to defeat him meant that he had failed the challenge. However, Su Yu was only practicing his new cultivation technique and had no intention of challenging it. Otherwise, if he used his full strength, he would be able to destroy the virtual shadow. Ding! With a soft sound, the stone door opened naturally. One day had passed. So fast? Su Yu still didn't have enough of it, so he was forced to restrain his demonic energy and the devil's hair on his palm. What surprised Su Yu was that the demonic hair had become much dimmer. Cultivating a dragon has consumed such a large amount of demonic energy. It seems like I must find something with sufficient demonic energy, Su Yu thought to himself. As Su Yu stood up and left the stone room, Tianren Yao walked over to him and examined him. He then asked in surprise, "Brother Yuxian, what were you doing inside? You caused such a huge commotion and scared me to death." Su Yu replied, "I didn't do anything. I just exchanged a blow with the illusory figure in the stone wall and tried to practice my new cultivation technique. That woman is quite strong." "Ah, you challenged Jian Wuxing?" Tian Renyao was surprised by this, and he examined Su Yu once again. What was the result of the challenge? You didn't admit defeat, did you? Looking at Su Yu's appearance, there was nothing messy about him. Is that woman called Jian Wuxing? The name sounded like a man's. Admit defeat? Su Yu didn't understand why Tian Renyao was so surprised. Tian Renyao was taken aback. Then, what was the result of your fight? He couldn't understand. Since he didn't admit defeat, why was he still safe and sound? The cultivation of the figure in the painting would automatically adjust to the challenger's cultivation level. He had challenged him many times, but he had never won. In fact, it wasn't just him, as no one had ever succeeded in challenging him. This was because Jian Wuxing was an invincible legend in the Red Blood Palace and the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands. No one in the same generation as her could block a single sword strike from her. Even now, no one had managed to break her undefeated record. It was probably a draw. That woman is really amazing, Su Yu said. Tian Renyao's eyes unexpectedly widened, and he sucked in a breath of cold air. You fought Jian Wuxing, who was in the same generation as you. When his words echoed out, many people in the surroundings looked at him in shock, as if they were looking at a monster. Su Yu realized that this was odd, and he asked in surprise, "Is Jian Wuxing special?" All of a sudden, the whole area quieted down, and they all looked at Su Yu as if he was an alien. Tian Renyao's eyes widened, and it was only after a long while that he asked hesitantly, "Are you not from Zhozhou? Don't you know who Jian Wuxing is?" Su Yu was startled, and he replied hurriedly, "Before I came into the world, I lived in the depths of a mountain, so I don't know anything about the outside world. May I ask who Jian Wuxing is?" Tian Renyao wore a doubtful look, but he didn't think too much about it, as it wasn't strange for people like Jian Wuxing to live in the depths of a mountain for a long time. As a disciple of the Red Blood Palace, you should learn about Jian Wuxing's great name. She used to be a disciple of the Red Blood Palace, and she was born here. She used to be the greatest person in her generation, and no one could block her sword. A peerless genius? Su Yu nodded, but he wasn't too surprised. He had seen many geniuses throughout the ages, and he had even fought a genius like Gu Taishu twice. So, it wasn't surprising at all. Oh, I see. Where is she now? Is she still in the Red Blood Palace? Su Yu asked casually. Tian Renyao said word by word, "She left the Red Blood Palace several hundred years ago, and now, she is one of the Zhozhou kings, the Lifeless Sword Prefecture's prefecture king." Wait, a prefecture king? One of Zhozhou's 9 kings? Su Yu was slightly shocked, as Jian Wuxing was unexpectedly a prefecture king. This meant that the person he had just fought was a level 3 fairy prefecture king. It was no wonder that they were so surprised that Jian Wuxing was able to fight to a draw with the young prefecture king. Su Yu was surprised, but he quickly calmed down. After all, Jian Wuxing didn't just possess the power of a single sword strike, and fighting to a draw with her wasn't something worth showing off or being proud of. Oh, I see. Su Yu nodded. Tian Renyao had waited for a long time, but Su Yu's current expression made him want to strangle Su Yu. Can you change your expression? You don't understand what kind of earth-shattering matter you have just done. Su Yu shrugged his shoulders indifferently. Oh, is that so? The secret room has been opened, so if you want to challenge it, you should hurry up. He was already short of money, and he only had 2,000 merit points left. He didn't even have a chance to enter at once. Tian Renyao was so infuriated that his whole body shivered, and he quickly entered the secret room. Fine, I will also give it a try. I want to see whether there is something wrong with the phantom image. However, after just a few minutes had passed, a miserable shriek echoed out. Tian Renyao covered his shoulder and ran out with a sullen look on his face. There is nothing wrong with the phantom image. It's Brother Yuxian who has a problem. You are the Demon Mountain's true demon. The news spread like a clap of thunder. Everyone was shocked. In the alluring cabinet mistress's mansion, Wei Zheng and Xue Qi were both in a side room, and the alluring cabinet mistress was sitting opposite them. "Aunt, please promise me that you will go back to the inner sanctum. Don't ruin yourself like this," Xue Qi begged. The alluring cabinet mistress wasn't moved by her pleas, and she just cast a glance at her. "What? You came back from the inner sanctum again, and you want to watch the seasonal exam and find a candidate for the left hall master?" Xue Qi was helpless, and she knew that it would be useless to try and persuade her any further. So, she sighed and said, "Helping senior brother Wei Jing is just one of my reasons. Moreover, I came back from the inner sanctum because I heard that Su Yu had come back, and I wanted to thank him for saving my life." The news that she had been saved by Su Yu wasn't a secret at all. "Okay, he's in the Demon Mountain, so you can go there and have a look at him at any time." The alluring cabinet mistress didn't take this seriously. Wei Jing chuckled and said, "Junior sister Xue Qi, you should quickly go there and come back. You should really pay back the debt you owe him as soon as possible, so that people won't misunderstand him and assume that he's our left palace master's disciple. Then, in the future, he will rely on our left palace master's reputation to run amok in the outer sanctum." Xue Qi furrowed her brows. Wei Zheng's words were quite harsh. Although they hadn't known each other for a long time, Xue Qi could still feel that Su Yu wasn't a snobbish person. Senior brother Wei, if he wanted to become the left palace master's disciple, he should have agreed to it yesterday. So, why did he have to rely on his reputation to intimidate others? Xue Qi was slightly displeased. Wei Jing revealed a faint smile. "Him? He probably knows that he isn't qualified to become the left palace master's disciple, so he rejected it to show his value. I have seen many people like him, so it isn't strange for him to act like this." Xue Qi was quite annoyed. Wei Zheng's power was pretty good, and that was why he had such high standards and arrogance. At this moment, a maid hurriedly came to report something to the alluring cabinet master and whispered something in her ear. The alluring cabinet master wore a calm expression, and she was startled for a moment before she shivered and asked, "Is this true?" The maid replied, "It's absolutely true. Many outer sanctum disciples witnessed it with their own eyes, and Tian Renyao was also there. So, it shouldn't be false." Xue Qi raised her brows and asked, "Auntie, what happened?" This was the first time that she had seen her auntie lose control of herself like this. The alluring cabinet master regained her composure and looked at Wei Jing. She wore a faint smile as she said, "It's nothing. It's just some news that came from the fighting room. An outer sanctum disciple challenged Jian Wuxing and ended in a draw." Xue Qi was startled. "It can't be. How is this possible?" Wei Zheng's calm smile froze, and his eyes flickered with a bright light. Surprise appeared in his eyes as he asked, "Who is it?" Delight welled up in his heart, as no one had ever managed to end in a draw against Jian Wuxing. Since this person could achieve such a feat, he must surely be someone with outstanding potential. In the outer sanctum, there were only a few talented youths selected from the 8 great factions. If he could recruit this person and make him the left palace master's disciple, he would surely be heavily rewarded by the left palace master. The alluring cabinet master chuckled and said, "Why are you so surprised? Didn't you just meet him?" Chapter 821. Xuelian, please state clearly which genius it is. "We must recruit such a genius into our left palace master's faction," Wei Jing said solemnly. The alluring cabinet mistress felt much more at ease, and she revealed a faint smile as she said, "Isn't he Su Yuxian, who isn't even qualified to become the left palace master's faction? Even senior brother Wei doesn't like him, so how could he have fought Jian Wuxing to a draw? It's just a rumor. Wei Zheng was petrified. How could it be him? I don't believe it." After Wei Zheng came back to his senses, his expression became gloomy as he shook his head. "I'm quite good at judging people, and this person's talent is just so. The rumor that he fought Jian Wuxing to a draw needs to be verified. Won't we know during the seasonal exam?" The alluring cabinet mistress was in a good mood, and as she took a sip of tea, she was overjoyed. Xueqi was dumbfounded. She couldn't believe it either. Xueqi shifted her gaze and said, "This won't do. I must go and meet him now. Regardless of whether it's true or not, we mustn't let the right palace master beat me to it." Similarly, Lao Ai and Xiao Qingfeng were shocked when they heard this news. "It's impossible." Xiao Qingfeng shook his head firmly. He didn't believe this rumor. Lao Ai got lost in his thoughts, then said in a deep voice, "It's quite possible. There were many witnesses, so it's impossible for him to fabricate a rumor. If I had known that this lad was so capable, I would have been more lenient in dealing with Wuxin's matter. But now I can't back down." Lao Ai regretted his decision. Now, both sides were like fire and water, and the possibility of Su Yu joining the right palace master's faction was almost zero. If the right palace master found out that they had blocked such a heaven-defying genius from joining the right palace master because of their personal grudges, they would probably suffer unimaginable punishments. Lao Ai's mood instantly became restless. "We mustn't let this continue. If it's proven that he's so capable, he will surely be recruited by the left palace master. At that time, how could the right palace master not be angry? We mustn't allow him to join the left palace master's faction," Lao Ai said. Xiao Qingfeng asked gloomily, "What should we do?" A ruthless glint flashed in Lao Ai's eyes as he said, "Of course, before the test, I'll severely injure him or kill him directly. Only then can I prevent him from entering the seasonal test." Now, many people didn't believe that Su Yu could fight Jian Wuxing to a draw. As for the upcoming seasonal exam, it would attract the attention of many people. Whether Su Yu had that kind of ability and whether the rumors were true or not, everything would depend on Su Yu's battle during the seasonal exam. Therefore, they wanted to get rid of Su Yu before that happened, so that he wouldn't be able to get on the stage and be tested by the crowd. Although they might be questioned, it would be worth it if they could get rid of the hidden danger. But killing is prohibited within the sect. So, how are we supposed to attack? Xiao Qingfeng asked puzzledly. Lao Ai smiled coldly. "Do you still need me to teach you? Didn't you already set a trap for that playboy? Now is the time to use him." Upon hearing this, Xiao Qingfeng came to a sudden realization, and a trace of ridicule appeared on the corners of his mouth. "Hee, I almost forgot about this trash. Inner sect. Master, please let me go to the outer sect. I want to challenge someone." A slim and beautiful woman knelt quietly in front of a stone door. Mo Tianxian, the strongest person in the 18 blessed and heavenly lands, was in the sect. "Is it the outer sanctum's disciple who fought to a draw with your mother?" An apathetic voice transmitted from within the door. "There is no need for that, as it was just a draw. Let's wait until someone defeats him. You can leave now." The woman hesitated for a moment, then left unwillingly. A dignified woman in a blue robe was quietly cultivating inside the stone door. All of a sudden, layers of black ghost energy appeared on her palm. If Su Yu was here, he would surely recognize that it was the extreme evil ghost energy that he had absorbed. Where did that old perverted thief go? Who will get my guillotine? Mo Tianxian sighed softly. She was the woman who had disguised herself as a man, whom Su Yu had saved. She was also the Red Blood Palace's ruler, Mo Tianxian. The matter of her losing the demonic path's supreme fairy artifact hadn't been publicized to the public. She had just sent people to all the great markets to inquire about it, and once they received any news, they would immediately retrieve the fairy artifact. Moreover, they still had an important mission, which was to find that old perverted thief. Whether or not they could get rid of this old perverted thief would depend on that mysterious old perverted thief. Su Yu, who was completely unaware of all of this, went back to the Demon Mountain. He planned to cultivate for a while before participating in the seasonal exam. When he had just sat down in his room, a piercingly cold sword energy swept toward him from outside. Shock appeared on Su Yu's face, and he immediately teleported 200 feet away, arriving in the sky outside the room. When he looked down, he saw that it was Bing Wuxin, who was holding a long sword, sweeping through his central palace. With a single strike of the sword, the whole central palace was cut in half and turned into ruins. Su Yu couldn't help but get annoyed. "Are you crazy?" Bing Wuxin turned around and pointed her sword at Su Yu, her fighting spirit surging. "Su Yuxian, I want to challenge you." Su Yu was baffled. "Are you crazy? Why do you want to challenge me all of a sudden?" "I heard that you fought Jian Wuxing to a draw, so I want to challenge you. Don't worry, I will suppress my cultivation to the same level as yours." Bing Wuxin's fighting spirit was overflowing, and she yearned for a fight. "Jian Wuxing?" Su Yu was speechless. He was just trying to practice his new technique, so how did he end up provoking trouble? "Oh yeah, a couple is fighting. Hurry up and carry a small stool." Gongsun Wuxia, who was eager to see the world in chaos, giggled as she carried a stool and flew to the roof. She rested her chin on her hands and watched the fight excitedly. This commotion had drawn out by Shanliang and Tian Renyao. "Cough, cough. You two should go outside and fight. The house has been destroyed, and we will have to sleep on the street." Bai Shanliang coughed twice. Tian Renyao cast a glance at Bing Wuxin. "Brother Yuxian, don't be afraid. I will help you beat this woman together. We are husband and wife, and our hearts are united." "What a bunch of weirdos!" Blue veins popped out on Su Yu's forehead. He glared at Bing Wuxin angrily. "Isn't the seasonal exam just around the corner? Can't you wait for a few days? I just came back from a great battle, and if you want to take advantage of me, you can fight me now." "Bah! If I, Bing Wuxin, want to fight fairly, who wants to take advantage of you?" Bing Wuxin sheathed her sword and said coldly, "It's fine. My injuries are almost healed, and I will fight you in the seasonal exam. I will also settle the palm attack you used on me that day." Su Yu blushed with shame. This girl still remembers the grudge from that day. "Tsk. How boring!" Gongsun Wuxia pouted her small mouth and spoke disdainfully. Su Yu was speechless as he looked at the ruined palace below. He was going to be homeless tonight. "Junior brother, why don't you come to my place tonight?" Bai Shanliang asked when he saw that Su Yu was in a difficult position. Su Yu naturally wouldn't reject him, and when he was about to agree, Tian Renyao said angrily, "Brother Shanliang, you are up to no good again. Do you want Brother Yuxian to test the poison for you?" Su Yu was startled, and he looked at Bai Shanliang. "Nonsense. I, Bai Shanliang, have kindness in my name, so how could I test the poison on my dear junior brother? Don't speak nonsense and slander my innocence." Bai Shanliang was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, and he shouted righteously. All of a sudden, as he waved his sleeves, many colorful bottles fell out and scattered on the ground. Su Yu looked at them and saw that they all had labels on them. 5 poisons intestines shattering powder. Drunken life death pill. 1 life death pill. 9 deadly poison life liquid. Blue veins popped out on Su Yu's forehead. Bai Shanliang was embarrassed. He picked up the bottles of elixirs and coughed heavily. "Ahem. I forgot to vomit blood. Wah." Bai Shanliang spouted a mouthful of blood and covered his chest in panic. "It's awful. I must quickly go back to rest. Ahem." After he left, Tian Renyao said flirtatiously, "Brother Yuxian, why don't you sleep with me tonight?" Su Yu's whole body shuddered. "Get lost." Bing Wu's fighting spirit rose once again. "Su Yu, why don't you come to my room?" Su Yu felt a headache when he looked at her eyes. This woman is pretty, but why is she so barbaric? At this moment, a bell-like chuckle transmitted over. "Brother Yuxian, why don't you come to my room?" Wu Xie is quite obedient. Obedient? How could Su Yu not understand the little demonist's temperament? But, no matter how he looked at it, she was still safer than the other 3 demons. "Fine, then I will disturb you, senior sister Wu Xie," Su Yu said. The little demoness chuckled like a fox whose evil scheme had succeeded. It was unknown what kind of devious plan she was hatching. It was at this moment that Xueqi came into the cave. When she surveyed the mountain, she couldn't help but be startled. "Is the demon conference being held here?" "It's the demolition conference." Su Yu pointed at his house, which had been turned into ruins. "Senior Sister Xueqi, why are you looking for me?" Su Yu asked bluntly. Xueqi revealed a charming smile. "Can't I look for junior brother Su for no reason?" After teasing him for a moment, Xueqi said with a stern look, "I came here to thank you for saving me. I'm really grateful to you. You owe Ruffian Long 10,000 merit points to me." Su Yu didn't forget this matter, so he waved his hand at her and said, "Junior brother, you can't let others pay for the debt you owe me. I appreciate your good intentions, but it was my duty to save you. You don't need to take it to heart." Xueqi looked at Su Yu and sincerely praised him for his character. "Senior sister, do you need anything else?" Su Yu asked. After Xueqi came back to her senses, a solemn look appeared on her face. "I want to verify whether the rumor about you fighting Jian Wuxing is true or not." "It's true? Senior sister, do you also want to challenge me?" Su Yu felt a headache coming on. Xueqi opened her eyes wide in surprise. "It's true." After Xueqi pondered this for a moment, her eyes lit up. "Junior brother, I wonder, swoosh." Before she could even finish her words, a person rushed into the mountain. He was pacing back and forth at the entrance, but he didn't dare to enter. He surveyed the surroundings, and when he saw Su Yu, delight appeared in his eyes. "Brother Su, please save Shangguan Yunk. Only you can save him." "Shangguan Yunk? What happened to him?" Su Yu asked as he looked at the person who had brought him this news. He had a slight impression of this person. It seemed like he was the Shangguan family's genius, Shangguan Fei, who Su Yu had saved once in the fairy confining forest. Blood seeped out of the corners of Shangguan Fei's mouth, and there was a red palm print on his face. His clothes were also covered in dust. "Brother Yunk was captured by Shao Qinfeng, and he wants to cripple his Dantian," Shangguan Fei said anxiously. Su Yu was startled by this. "Shao Qinfeng? He dared to capture people in the sanctum at will and cripple their Dantians?" The sanctum's rules were strict, and besides the law enforcement team, few people dared to punish people in private. It's Shao Qinfeng. A month ago, Brother Yunk vouched for 3 of his friends and borrowed 10,000 merit points from the black market at a high interest rate. But who would have expected that those 3 friends harbored evil intentions? In fact, they borrowed 100,000 merit points and ran away. Now, it's time for them to repay the loan, and since those 3 scoundrels ran away, Brother Yunk will have to repay them. Vouch for them? Su Yu suddenly recalled that Shangguan Yunk had once vouched for his 3 fair-weather friends at a high interest rate. At that time, Su Yu had even warned him not to easily trust fair-weather friends. However, he couldn't refuse him, as he didn't want to give him face. Now, such a troublesome matter had arisen. "Don't be anxious. Brother Yunk's net worth is quite high, so you should be able to pay 100,000 merit points, right?" Su Yu asked. Shangguan Fei smiled bitterly and said, "If it was just 100,000 merit points, it wouldn't be a problem for me. But, since the last month, the interest has been compounded and now I have to pay 500,000 merit points. Moreover, I must pay it today. So, how is this possible? Compounded interest?" Su Yu's expression became gloomy. The terrifying thing about high interest rates was that when one paid a debt, the interest would be higher than the principal. Now, it seemed like what Shangguan Yunk had signed was a daily interest loan, which meant that the principal and interest would be calculated every day. So, after 30 days, he would have to pay 4 times the principal. Why is he so muddle-headed? Su Yu shook his head inwardly. He was, after all, the young master of a great aristocratic family, and he had underestimated the black market's people. Shangguan Fei was so anxious that he almost cried. Brother Su, please save Brother Yang. I have already sent someone to inform Sister Qing'er, but she will need at least a day to rush over from the inner sanctum. By the time she arrives, it will already be too late. So, you are the only one who can save Brother Yang. Shangguan Yang was a loyal and righteous person, and he had treated Su Yu well. Now that he was in trouble, Su Yu couldn't just sit by and watch. Moreover, Su Yu's intuition told him that Shangguan Yang had probably fallen into a trap. Those three fair-weather friends had probably been bribed by Xiao Qingfeng, and they had set up a trap for Shangguan Yang so that Xiao Qingfeng could easily control him. Xiao Qingfeng was really like a haunting ghost. All of a sudden, Su Yu's gaze flickered. Shangguan Fei, can you tell me who told you to look for me? Shangguan Fei replied hurriedly, I heard it from a bystander. He said that you got a lot of merit points in the Elegant Spirit Mountain, and he said that you can probably lend some of them to Brother Yang. Su Yu's eyes flickered slightly, and a cold sneer appeared at the corners of his mouth. I was just wondering what a coincidence it was. It turns out that the person Xiao Qingfeng wants to deal with is me. Su Yu sneered at him. The fact that he had gotten a large number of merit points in the Elegant Spirit Mountain was only known to the people involved, and it hadn't been widely spread. Yet, an ordinary passerby had coincidentally pointed out the right path for Shangguan Fei and pleaded for Su Yu's mercy. It could be seen from this that Xiao Qingfeng's ultimate goal was to lure Su Yu out. Hee, don't even think of hitting me. Su Yu's eyes flickered with a cold glint. This was a poisonous snake that had attacked him from behind, and he had provoked him several times. It was time for him to settle this once and for all. Where are they? Who were there? Su Yu asked in a deep voice. Shangguan Fei was overjoyed. There was Xiao Qingfeng, as well as the Outer Sanctum's Black Market's people, as well as an Inner Sanctum's disciple. It was obvious that the Inner Sanctum's disciple was Lao Ai, who liked to launch sneak attacks and leave a deep impression on Su Yu. Chapter 822. Wait! A bright light flashed in Xueqi's eyes. She quickly chased after him and said, The Right Palace Master's people have been too high-profile in the Outer Sanctum recently. It seems like we must teach them a lesson. The Outer Sanctum isn't the Left Palace Master's domain. You go first. I will immediately notify Ruffian Long and the others to gather the Outer Sanctum's Black Market's members. Humph. After Xueqi spoke, she quickly left. Su Yu understood that Xueqi was expressing goodwill toward him, hoping that he would one day join the Left Palace Master's camp. Su Yu wouldn't reject Xueqi's good intentions. You should go with Xueqi and ask for reinforcements, while I take care of another matter. Su Yu's eyes flickered as he spoke. Xueqi stamped her foot and nodded at Shangguan Fei. Let's go. Shangguan Fei was overjoyed, but he was also shocked. He knew Xueqi, as she was an Inner Sanctum disciple in charge of the Outer Sanctum's Black Market. It was rumored that she belonged to the Left Palace Master's faction, and she had a high status. He did not expect that Su Yu, who had only been in the Outer Sanctum for 2 months, would be able to get close to such a person. It seemed like Xueqi was quite polite to Su Yu. Compared to the nameless kid who wanted to borrow the Shangguan clan's name to pass the Outer Circle's recruitment test, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Thank you, Senior Sister Xueqi, for your help. Shangguan Fei followed her gratefully and quickly went to get help. Su Yu also left the Demon Mountain immediately. However, he was not in a hurry to save Shangguan Yunfei. Instead, his eyes emitted a faint silver light as he flew to the sky above the Outer Sanctum. If he rushed over blindly, he wouldn't be able to save Shangguan Yang, as his opponent had the Heart's Oath Scroll, and unless he took out 500,000 merit points, Shangguan Yang would have to cripple his Dantian according to the Heart's Oath Scroll. The rules of the Black Market were something that even the 3 palace lords of the Outer Sect could not deny. As such, the one who had started the trouble should be the one who had started it. Since the 3 disciples who had borrowed the money had run away, They just needed to find them and bring them back. Then, Shangguan Yunk wouldn't need to pay the debt, which would solve the problem easily. Su Yu activated his soul eyes and scanned the entire outer sanctum. None of the buildings could obstruct Su Yu's vision. What he needed to do was to find those 3 people. It was highly likely that those 3 people had been sent by Shao Qingfeng to frame Shangguan Yunk, so they had either been killed or hidden by Shangguan Yunk. Su Yu didn't know where Shao Qingfeng lived, so he could only use this method to scan the whole outer sanctum. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Su Yu had scanned half of the faction, but there were no clues about the 2 of them. An hour passed, but they still couldn't find any movement. Even after 2 hours had passed and Su Yu had searched the entire faction, there was still no sign of the other party. Could it be that they have already been silenced, or have left the faction? Su Yu's heart sank, but when he thought about it carefully, he realized that it was impossible. Although Shangguan Yunk had been careless and had been deceived, he wasn't stupid. So, how could he not have known that the 3 of them had left the sect? Hence, they must be within the faction. As long as they were not dead, they must be hiding somewhere that even Su Yu's soul eyes could not see. In the sect, there was only one place that the soul eye couldn't penetrate other than the residences of the 3 palace masters. Phantom Battle Room. The illusory fighting room's isolation conditions were the best in the outer sanctum, and even though Su Yu had caused a great commotion in it, not even the slightest bit of demonic energy leaked out. As he thought of this, Su Yu flew out of the fighting room. When he was about to enter it, he suddenly saw a person. He had some impression of this person. His name was Second Tiger, and he used to be Ruffian Long's subordinate. Later on, he had defected to Shao Qingfeng's side and helped him manage the outer sanctum's black market. Su Yu clearly remembered that Shangguan Yunk and his 3 fair-weather friends had borrowed money from Second Tiger. Before he entered the fighting room, he looked around vigilantly. It was only after he ascertained that no one was following him that he entered the fighting room and went to the illusory fighting room's door. He used a hand signal and knocked on the door 3 times. It was only then that the stone door was opened and a vigilant face was revealed. It was none other than one of Shangguan Yunk's 3 fair-weather friends. "Senior Brother Yang, you have come." The person was vigilant and cautious. Second Tiger Yang furrowed his brows and scolded him in a low voice. "I told you not to show your face. Go inside and discuss it with me." As a creaking sound echoed out, the group of people entered the stone door. The illusory fighting room was protected by a powerful formation, and Su Yu's soul eyes couldn't penetrate it. Hence, he couldn't see what was happening inside, so he could only wait patiently outside. In less than half a cup of tea's time, Second Tiger Yang pushed open the stone door and came out. After Second Tiger Yang left the illusory fighting room, Su Yu's eyes flickered. He didn't continue staring at the stone door, so he turned around and followed Second Tiger Yang. Second Tiger Yang had chosen a remote path on purpose to hide his track. The more he walked, the more remote he became, until he reached a desolate land. All of a sudden, Second Tiger Yang furrowed his brows and turned around coldly. "Your Excellency, you have been following me for so long. So, you should have had enough." A white-haired old man walked out of a corner, clasping his hands behind his back. Su Yu wasn't surprised that he had been discovered, as he didn't try to hide himself. "Su Yuxian." Second Tiger Yang's pupils contracted, while panic flickered in the deepest part of his eyes. However, he quickly calmed down and snorted coldly. "Why are you following me? What we black markets people hate the most is being followed." Su Yu replied calmly, "What does it matter to me whether you hate it or not? I have some questions that I want to ask you, and I hope that you can give me a satisfactory answer." Second Tiger Yang turned around, crossed his arms in front of his chest, and said coldly, "Speak." His aura was quite imposing, and it was enough to scare ordinary outer sanctum disciples. After all, he was a level 6 fairy. "I just want to ask you whether those 3 people are still alive," Su Yu said calmly. Second Tiger Yang's pupils contracted, and he scolded him. What nonsense are you talking about? How could I possibly kill them? His voice came to an abrupt end, as he suddenly realized that Su Yu was trying to get information out of him. What are you talking about? I don't understand what you are talking about. If you don't have anything else to say, then I'll take my leave. Second Tiger Yang turned around and was about to leave. Su Yu strode forward and spoke coldly. I still haven't allowed you to leave. Second Tiger Yang was so infuriated that he laughed. A level 3 fairy dared to bare his fangs at him? Defeating that trash, Shaoli, has given you too much self-confidence. Second Tiger Yang sneered coldly as he looked at Su Yu like he was looking at an idiot who overestimated himself. It was a pity that if he knew why Xiao Qingfeng was determined to get rid of him, he wouldn't be able to laugh. Su Yu had managed to fight Jian Wuxing's phantom image in the illusory fighting room to a draw, which was enough to prove that Su Yu's fighting prowess was shocking. It seems like I need to teach you a lesson about the disparity in power. A blue radiance appeared on Second Tiger Yang's head, and it seemed like a giant elephant, which possessed an explosive power. Barbarian elephant flattens the earth. Second Tiger Yang shouted in a low voice, while the giant elephant, which had appeared on his head, charged at him. Each of its steps contained 6 elephants and a half's power. Su Yu wasn't afraid of it, and he just clenched his right fist and thrust it at Second Tiger Yang. Splutter! The giant elephant's phantom image, which seemed powerful, was torn apart like a piece of paper. Moreover, his fist didn't lose any of its power, and it went straight for Second Tiger Yang's chest in front of him, who was overwhelmed with shock. Splutter! The power entered Second Tiger Yang's body and sent him flying away, while a mouthful of blood gushed out of his mouth. As a thump sound echoed out, Second Tiger Yang's eyes became filled with shock as he asked, How could your fleshly body be so powerful? Su Yu was just a trifling level 3 fairy, yet his fleshly body was far above his own. Su Yu didn't speak any superfluous words, and he just stamped his foot on Second Tiger Yang's chest, while he surveyed the surroundings calmly. There's no one here, and the scenery here is quite beautiful. So, you probably won't have any regrets if you die here. Wait, we don't have any feuds, so why do you want to kill me? Second Tiger Yang's thoughts raced. Su Yu replied calmly, You really don't have any feuds with me, and if you want to hate someone, you should hate yourself for following the wrong master. Su Yu exerted his power on his foot, while he wanted to crush Second Tiger Yang to death. Second Tiger Yang was terrified, and he felt like he was about to die. He said hurriedly, Wait, don't kill me. You can have anything you want. Su Yu loosened his foot slightly and asked coldly, I will ask you once again, are those 3 people dead or alive? Fright appeared in Second Tiger Yang's eyes, and he clenched his teeth hesitantly before he said, I already took Senior Brother Xiao's orders and killed them. As he spoke, he raised his index finger, and 3 badly mangled corpses fell out of his ring. Su Yu's heart sank as he wondered, Is it already too late? Xiao Qingfeng is so ruthless, and he surely wouldn't spare their lives. Now that the 3 of them were dead, all of the responsibility would fall on Shangguan Yong's shoulders. Unless he took out 500,000 merit points, he wouldn't be able to save Shangguan Yong. All of a sudden, Su Yu's eyes flickered, and a mysterious smile appeared on his face. He looked at Second Tiger Yang once again and chuckled. Do you want to keep your life? Second Tiger Yang's heart was in his throat, and he nodded like a chicken pecking at grains. Junior Brother Su, what do you want me to do? Please instruct me. Traitors didn't have any loyalty, and since he could betray Ruffian Long, he could also betray Xiao Qingfeng. I don't need you to do anything, just relax your mind, Su Yu said. Second Tiger Yang hesitated for a moment, but as he faced Su Yu's gaze, he decided to relax his mind. A silver-gray light beam shot out of Su Yu's eyes and entered Second Tiger Yang's soul. An intense pain appeared on Second Tiger Yang's face, and his eyes became blank. He stood respectfully behind Su Yu like a puppet. Chapter 8:23. The Outer Sanctum's plaza was the favorite place for the Outer Sanctum disciples, apart from the fighting rooms. It was the black market. Not only were there loan sharks there, but there were also black merchants selling all kinds of items of unknown origins. Elixirs, cultivation techniques, magical treasures, and even all kinds of information could be bought there. Everything could be bought there, except for assassination, theft, and human trafficking, which were prohibited by the sanctum. The black market that day was more lively than usual, as one of the great black market's factions was going to carry out an extremely cruel task. They were going to cripple a disciple who owed them merit points. Such a matter hadn't occurred for a long time, as they would usually sign a cruel heart oath scroll when borrowing money. If they didn't repay the debt in time, they would have their cultivation crippled according to the heart oath scroll. The Outer Sanctum would turn a blind eye to this matter and wouldn't interfere in it. They would only warn the others to be careful when borrowing money. Those whose cultivations were crippled couldn't stand among the Sanctum's disciples, and they would either be reduced to serving the Outer Sanctum's disciples or leave the Sanctum. Moreover, if they had enemies, they wouldn't even dare to take half a step out of the Sanctum, as they were afraid of being hunted down. Their miserable fates were enough to serve as a warning to those who came after them. This was why no one dared to borrow money rashly for a long time, as most of the borrowers were confident in paying off their debt. Now that such a matter had occurred again, how could they not pay attention to it? This was especially the case since the person whose cultivation was about to be crippled was a disciple of the Shangguan family, Shangguan Yunk. The Shangguan family was the second greatest faction apart from the 18 great factions. Even the young master of such a faction couldn't avoid the dreadful consequences of breaching his contract. The plaza was packed with people, all of whom were surrounding the central region. Xiao Qingfeng was leading 50 disciples with good cultivations. The weakest among them was a level 3 fairy, while the strongest was a level 7 fairy. Most of the Outer Sanctum disciples recognized their faces, as they were all members of the black market, and they were in charge of nearly half of the black market. Now, they were all gathered behind Xiao Qingfeng, and it seemed like a gang meeting was being held. 2 level 7 fairies were guarding a well-dressed youth, whose face was covered with bruises. His hands were tied behind his back, and he was tied to a cross. I remember Shangguan Yunk. He's obviously already training in the inner sanctum, but he still likes to roam around in the outer sanctum. He spends all day calling his friends to buy wine for him. I never expected that he would end up in such a situation. I know, right? He used to be such a glorious man, with an illustrious family background, and an endless amount of meritorious services. Too bad, he offended the wrong person. No matter how strong the Shangguan clan is, in front of the right palace master, they are just like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. What is a family? His sister, Shangguan Qing'er, is a registered disciple of Palace Master Mo. In the end, didn't the right palace master still dare to attack her brother? Sai, who asked Palace Mistress Mo to not manage the affairs of the clan for the past 100 years. The left and right palace masters are actually in charge of all the affairs of the clan. They are the ones who are truly in power. If it were Mo Tianxuan's last disciple, the left and right palace masters would not dare to make things difficult for him. However, I'm afraid that a registered disciple would not have such deterrence. The so-called nominal disciple was often just a title. It was very prominent in the eyes of ordinary people, but in the eyes of insiders, it was nothing. Shangguan Qing'er was Mo Tianxuan's registered disciple in name, but in reality, she had only seen Mo Tianxian a few times. Some of them were gloating over Su Yu's misfortune, while some of them were sighing. Xiao Qingfeng waited patiently, while a mocking smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. He wanted to see whether Su Yu would come to his rescue or not. It would be best if he could come up with a way to start a conflict, as Lao Ai would surely kill Su Yu amidst the chaos. Crash! All of a sudden, A commotion arose among the crowd, and they all made way for a group of people. A large group of people separated the crowd like a wave, and their leader was a sloppy person. He was followed by 50 or 60 people, who were emitting intense killing intent. Ruffian Long, they also came here. The crowd was surprised. The Right Palace Master's Black Markets members were supposed to execute those who violated the rules, so why did the Left Palace Master's people come here to cause trouble? The Black Markets members from both sides usually occupied half of the black market, and they rarely fought against each other. This was because the Outer Sanctum's rules forbade large-scale fights. Now that they had suddenly appeared, the crowd found it unimaginable. Xiao Qingfeng was startled by this, and he raised his brows slightly. Why did you come here? Su Yu didn't get to see them. Instead, he got to see a group of enemies. This was different from what he had imagined. Ruffian Long cast him a sidelong glance and said, "Humph, is this place run by you? I can come here whenever I want, so why would I need your orders?" In terms of power, Ruffian Long was much weaker than Xiao Qingfeng, but he still managed to fight against Xiao Qingfeng by relying on the fact that he had more people. Xiao Qingfeng snorted softly and said, "You should find someone who can talk to you. Trash like you aren't worthy of talking to me." "Is that so? So, am I worthy?" A charming and alluring figure appeared among the crowd, and many ardent gazes shot at her. It seemed like countless hungry wolves had just discovered a little lamb. Xue Qi's appearance immediately attracted a great deal of attention. "It's the Inner Sanctum's vixen, Xue Qi. She was quite famous in the Outer Sanctum, and many disciples knew her. TSK, I didn't expect that even the Inner Sanctum's disciples would get involved in this matter. It's really unexpected." Xiao Qingfeng's expression became slightly tense. "Xue Qi, what did you come here for?" Xue Qi's smile was like a spring flower, and her charming aura was everywhere. She then said, He, of course, I came to take young Master Shangguan away. I'm sorry, but he also owes us a debt, so before he pays us back, we can't let you cripple his cultivation." The crowd suddenly understood what was going on, and they started discussing it among themselves. "It's really strange. Why would the Left Palace Master's black market help Shangguan Yunk? Moreover, they even mobilized all of the black market's members. It seems like they are going to fight fiercely." "That's right. It seems like the Shangguan family didn't get a chance to curry favor with the black market, did they?" "That's true, especially since senior sister Xue Qi also joined them. That woman's position in the Left Palace Master's camp isn't low, and she has an arrogant temperament. So, why would she lower herself to save an insignificant Shangguan Yunk?" The crowd made many guesses. Xiao Qingfeng's expression became gloomy when he heard Xue Qi's intentions. "Su Yuxian is really great. He unexpectedly managed to persuade you to help him. You really think highly of him." The Left Palace Master's camp's appreciation of Su Yu exceeded Xiao Qingfeng's expectations, and this was the situation they didn't want to see. They must kill Su Yu without any delay. When the crowd heard this, they were all startled. "What? Senior sister Xue Qi helped Su Yuxian? Which Su Yuxian?" someone asked in confusion. "You don't even know who Su Yuxian is? He's the newly advanced demon, the fifth demon, the supreme central demon. He's the terrifying man who subdued Bing Wuxin's body and heart on the first day they entered the Demon Mountain. It's rumored that Bing Wuxin became completely obedient and devoted to him after that night, and she even fought with the Raging Flame Cabinet's master on the street out of jealousy. Now that you mention it, some people have seen him enter the Raging Flame Cabinet's master's mansion for a whole month. I'm afraid that even the bewitching Raging Flame Cabinet's master has been subdued by him." "So, it's him." Many people were startled. Many people only knew that the Supreme Central Demon had just arrived, but they didn't know his real name. Senior sister Xue Qi couldn't have also been subdued by that Central Demon, could she? Someone asked as he looked at Xue Qi. Xue Qi didn't care about Xiao Qingfeng's mockery. She just chuckled and said, "Of course. Since it's Su Yuxian's request, I'm willing to climb a mountain of swords or dive into a sea of flames." Crack! In an instant, the sound of people's hearts being crushed echoed out. Hateful! Not only did Central Demon steal Bing Wuxin, but he also stole the Raging Flame Cabinet's master. Now, even Xueqi has been subdued by him. He's such a B*****starred. Does he want to kill both aunt and nephew? That's right. He's too hateful. He has taken all 3 of the Red Blood Palace's famous beauties. That's more than half of them. The heavenly punishment Central Demon. Just wait until I'm powerful enough, and I will beat this B*****starred. Su Yu had already become the common enemy of all the male Outer Sanctum's male disciples. Xiao Qingfeng, hand him over, or else I won't mind teaching you a lesson on behalf of the right palace master, Xueqi said. Ruffian Long laughed sinisterly and said, "Brothers, don't attack them lightly, as you mustn't break their balls like you did last time." The crowd roared with laughter. However, at this moment, an ice-cold and disdainful shout transmitted from the crowd behind Xiao Qingfeng. "Is that the case? I really want to see who dares to do so." Then, a fair-skinned man, whose whole body emitted an ice-cold aura, walked out of the crowd. Ruffian Long and the others held their breaths, while their evil laughter stopped abruptly. Xueqi squinted her eyes and said, "Lao Ai, you shouldn't stay in the inner sanctum, but are stirring up trouble in the outer sanctum. Aren't you afraid of ruining the outer sanctum's black market? Aren't you afraid of being punished by your right palace master?" Lao Ai sneered coldly and said, "Aren't you the same?" "Humph. Lao Ai, if you don't want to cause a disturbance in the outer sanctum, then hand him over to me. Otherwise, the news of our private fight will surely spread to the inner sanctum. If the 2 palace masters learn about it, I will surely be punished, but will you be spared?" Lao Ai's pupils contracted slightly. What he didn't want the most at this moment was for the outer sanctum's affairs to spread to the inner sanctum. "Are you threatening me?" Lao Ai squinted his eyes. Xueqi stuck out her chest and said, "That's right. So, will you let him go?" A cold glint flickered in Lao Ai's eyes as he replied, "I will, but I will let him go after a while." As he spoke, he glanced at Xiao Qingfeng out of the corner of his eye and said calmly, "It seems like Su Yu is just a coward, so it's useless for him to stay. Cripple his cultivation." Xiao Qingfeng was quite disappointed, as he had spent so much effort on him, yet Su Yu didn't take the bait. Xiao Qingfeng walked over to Shangguan Yunque, then sneered coldly and said, "Your so-called good brother doesn't amount to much. He clearly knew that you were in danger, yet he didn't even dare to show himself. It's really pitiful for you." When Shangguan Yunque heard that Su Yu didn't come, he didn't seem disappointed. Instead, a relaxed look appeared on his face as he said, "Brother Su already warned me that I shouldn't easily trust a fair-weather friend. It was I who tried to dissuade him, and I only have myself to blame for this. Since he didn't come, it means that he already saw through your scheme. I'm quite relieved, hee." Chapter 8:24. He condensed a palm wind and thrust it at Shangguan Yunque's dantian. Once his dantian was damaged, he would surely become a cripple. However, at this moment, a shout transmitted from afar, "Stop!" When Xiao Qingfeng heard this familiar voice, he was startled. He then curled the corners of his mouth into a cold smile as he looked at Shangguan Yunque and said, "Hee, it seems like your brother isn't as smart as you imagined him to be." Lao Ai's expression relaxed slightly, while a cold glint flickered in the depths of his eyes. At the same time, he calmly retreated into the crowd and prepared to carry out his specialty, sneak attack. If he went all out, he would be able to kill Su Yu in the blink of an eye. Su Yu rushed over quickly and managed to catch up in time. Then, he gracefully landed in front of Xueqi. In an instant, many pairs of eyes fell on Su Yu. They all wanted to see the Central Demon's supreme demeanor. Xueqi's clear eyes lit up, and she approached him while wearing a stern look as she said, "Junior brother Su, just tell us what to do. As long as you say it, we will follow your orders. Even if we have to fight fiercely, we will surely help you save Shangguanyang." Suyu was quite grateful to Xueqi. Even though Xueqi wanted to curry favor with him and would surely help him wholeheartedly, he was quite grateful to her. "Senior sister Xueqi, please calm down. The eruption of a conflict is probably what they are looking forward to the most. After all, there is a rat hiding in the crowd, ready to fish in troubled waters at any moment." Suyu revealed a mocking smile. "Isn't that right, senior brother Lao Ai?" He had locked onto Lao Ai even before he had descended, so he could observe his every move. So, how could Suyu not guard against this man's habit of launching sneak attacks? Well, where is he? It was only now that Xueqi noticed that Lao Ai had hidden himself in the crowd. If Suyu hadn't warned her, Lao Ai would have been able to launch a sneak attack at any one of them. Many disciples laughed inwardly when they heard this. They had all heard about Lao Ai's character. A moment ago, he was still in front of them, yet in the twinkling of an eye, he had hidden himself in the crowd. They were all aware of what he was planning. Lao Ai's expression became gloomy. Since he had been seen through, he didn't have any chance of launching a sneak attack. So, he could only fight him openly and accidentally kill him. "Lad, why did you come here? You want me to release Shangguanyang? You don't have the right to order me." Lao Ai spoke coldly. He was ready to fight at any moment. Once he started fighting, he would immediately use his full power to kill Suyu. Even from a great distance away, Suyu could feel Lao Ai's intense murderous intent, which had already locked onto him. Suyu couldn't help but sneer inwardly. "This shameless guy really has the intention to kill me. Hee, I didn't order you to let him go. I just wanted to ask you some questions." Suyu clasped his hands behind his back and spoke calmly. Coupled with his charming appearance, he looked like a celestial being. Lao Ai narrowed his eyes. "If you have anything to say, just say it." Suyu revealed a faint smile and said, "I just have 2 questions. First, Shangguanyang is just acting as a guarantor, so if those 3 people come back, should Shangguanyang look for them instead of Shangguanyang?" Lao Ai's eyes flickered, and he looked at Xiao Qingfeng. It was only when Xiao Qingfeng shook his head that he regained his composure. "According to the rules, if those 3 people come back, then we should look for them. It doesn't matter if they act as guarantors or anything. However, it seems like they didn't come back." Suyu still wore a faint smile. "Second question. If it is discovered that those 3 people joined hands with someone to harm Shangguanyang, then how should we deal with them?" Lao Ai and Xiao Qingfeng were startled and their gazes flickered. They didn't reply immediately. "It seems like they can't answer me. Senior sister Xueqi, can you help me answer them?" Suyu asked. Xueqi's bright eyes flickered. She knew that Suyu had found the crux of the matter, so she looked at Lao Ai and Xiao Qingfeng and sneered coldly. "According to the black market's rules, anyone who dares to join hands to harm a guarantor will have his cultivation crippled. After all, no one will dare to act as guarantors in the future, which will affect our black market's business." Suyu nodded, then looked at Lao Ai and Xiao Qingfeng and asked calmly, "Did you hear that?" Xiao Qingfeng snorted coldly. "Why are you telling us this? Unless you can find proof, Shangguanyang's cultivation will be crippled." At some unknown time, Lao Ai had already retreated to Shangguanyang's side. He then said coldly, "We have already wasted enough time. Since Shangguanyang is a guarantor, and he can't pay back his debt of 500,000 merit points, then he must be punished." As he spoke, he was about to thrust his palm at Suyu, while his gaze was fixed on Suyu. He had stirred up the situation on purpose so that both sides would start fighting and create chaos. Just when he was about to thrust his palm at Shangguanyang, a shout transmitted from a distant place. "Senior brother Xiao, senior brother Lao, Those 3 people have already been killed according to your orders, a tall and sturdy man shouted at the top of his lungs from afar. His voice reverberated through the whole plaza. All of a sudden, the noisy plaza became deathly silent. The crowd was startled, and they all looked at each other in dismay. That's Second Tiger Yang. It's him. The crowd quickly recognized Second Tiger Yang. His status was similar to Ruffian Long's, so everyone in the black market knew him. However, his words were really shocking. Lao Ai and Xiao Qingfeng were startled, and their expressions changed drastically. Lao Ai cast a sidelong glance at Xiao Qingfeng and shouted coldly, "What kind of idiots are your subordinates?" Xiao Qingfeng's face became flushed, and he tapped the ground with the tip of his foot, flew over, grabbed Second Tiger Yang's arm, and asked in a deep voice, "Are you crazy?" However, Second Tiger Yang didn't keep a low profile, and he shouted loudly, "Senior Brother Xiao, I didn't say anything wrong. Did you ask me to kill those 3 junior brothers, who asked Shangguan Yunk to be their guarantor? Here, I brought their corpses with me." Second Tiger Yang waved his hand, and the 3 corpses fell from his ring. It seemed like they were the 3 disciples who had run away. "It's them. I recognize them. I saw them ask Shangguan Yunk to be their guarantor in front of Second Tiger Yang, so that they could borrow merit points." A disciple cried out in alarm. When the crowd saw the 3 dead people, they all went into an uproar, and many shocked and enlightened gazes looked at Xiao Qingfeng. "Second Tiger Yang, what nonsense are you talking about? If you speak another word of nonsense, I will send you to the law enforcement team." Xiao Qingfeng became anxious, as he couldn't understand why Second Tiger Yang would say such a thing in front of so many people. But, when he looked at Second Tiger Yang's gaze, he didn't seem confused at all. Second Tiger Yang continued speaking, "Senior Brother Xiao, what's wrong with you? I didn't speak nonsense. At that time, you instructed me to ask Li Sang and the other 2 to approach Shangguan Yunk and gain his trust. Then, you asked Shangguan Yunk to be their guarantor in order to extort money from him. How could you forget that?" The crowd immediately went into an uproar. Second Tiger Yang had unexpectedly divulged such a matter in front of so many people. As for whether he was telling the truth or not, everyone was well aware that Shangguan Yunk was a fat sheep in the eyes of the black market, so it was normal for Xiao Qingfeng to set his eyes on him. Nonsense. Xiao Qingfeng was furious, and he knew that something was amiss with Second Tiger Yang. So, he grabbed his shoulder armor and revolved his vital energy to seal his limbs' 100 meridians so that he couldn't open his mouth. However, when he was about to take Second Tiger Yang away, Su Yu strode forward and pushed Xiao Qingfeng away. He wore a faint smile as he said, "Senior Brother Xiao, why don't you let Second Tiger Yang finish speaking? Now you're in such a hurry to pull him down. I wonder what your intentions are?" How could Xiao Qingfeng not know that he had been tricked by Su Yu? "Su Yu! You dared to trick me!" Xiao Qingfeng's face became flushed with anger. He had always been the one who did things for others, not the other way around. Su Yu shrugged his shoulders and said, "Senior Brother Xiao, I don't understand what you are talking about. You are courting death." Xiao Qingfeng flew into a rage and attacked him. This matter would surely affect the right palace master's business in the outer sanctum's black market. The lender had colluded with an outsider and tricked his guarantor. So, who would dare to borrow money from him in the future? Who would dare to be his guarantor? Moreover, Xueqi's interference would probably cause a great change in the outer sanctum's black market structure. At that time, the right palace master wouldn't spare him. He had wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to get rid of Su Yu, but he hadn't expected that he would be tricked by Su Yu. It could be imagined how much he hated Su Yu. "Hee, Senior Brother Xiao, what do you want to do?" A fragrant wind assaulted them as Xueqi, who was wearing a thin gown, flew over gracefully and easily neutralized Xiao Qingfeng's palm strike. Xiao Qingfeng was forced back by her attack and was infuriated. "How daring! Senior brother Lao, why aren't you? Xiao Qingfeng's heart thumped when he turned his head around to take a look. Lao Ai was nowhere to be seen. His heart sank when he saw that the situation wasn't right. Lao Ai had left him behind when he realized that the situation wasn't good for him. Xueqi was quite carefree. The outer sanctum's black market's internal strife wasn't something that had been going on for a short while. It had been going on for many years. There had never been a victor between the two sides, and she hadn't expected that she would finally see the light of day. Xiao Qingfeng, according to the black market's rules, anyone who colludes with another person to harm their guarantor will be punished by having their cultivation crippled. No one can escape this punishment. Xueqi's expression was ice-cold. Xiao Qingfeng's face turned pale. Such rules were set by both sides, so how could he obey them obediently? You are framing me. I'm a dignified person in charge of the black market, and I can't be convicted just because you say so. We need to investigate this matter, Xiao Qingfeng said anxiously. He then shouted at the people behind him, "Why are you still standing there in a daze?" They understood what he meant, and they immediately rushed over and protected Xiao Qingfeng. After all, he was their big brother, and if he was killed, they wouldn't have a place to stand in the future. Xueqi sneered coldly and said, "Outer Sanctum's black market's disciples, listen to me. Xiao Qingfeng has violated the rules of the black market and framed the guarantor. As such, he should have his cultivation crippled. Now, he wants to stay out of this matter. Do you agree?" When the black market's members saw that they were about to suppress the other side, they became excited. "We don't agree." "Then, what are you waiting for?" Xueqi chuckled. Ruffian Long let out a strange laugh and said, "Brothers, let's charge. Let's drive away these pests and bring light to our black market." When they heard him, many of the outer sanctum's disciples rolled their eyes. How could there be light in a place like the black market? However, Xiao Qingfeng's actions were really infuriating. He had framed Shangguan Yonk and almost crippled his cultivation. Xiao Qingfeng's face turned deathly pale, as he knew that the other side had an inner sanctum's disciple. So, how could they be a match for him? "Everyone, stop." When the two sides were about to attack, a dignified shout echoed out. The voice didn't seem angry, but it contained a great spiritual pressure, which made everyone stop fighting. Chapter 825. As for Xiao Qingfeng, a pleasantly surprised expression appeared on his face. He hurriedly bowed toward the direction of the voice and said, "I pay my respects to the Great Palace Master. Great Palace Master, please uphold justice for me. They are ruthless and vicious, and they want to cripple my cultivation." Under everyone's gazes, the three of them rode a white cloud from the depths of the outer sect. The white-haired old woman was none other than Palace Mistress Kong Chan. The goateed elder was Palace Lord Hua. The two palace masters were among them, but in front of them stood a person with his hands behind his back. This person's status was clearly higher than Palace Lord Hua and Palace Lord Kong Chan. He wore a navy blue martial robe and was dressed very simply, like an ordinary old man. However, his eyes were extremely sharp, as if he could see through people. As Suyu was being stared at, his blood involuntarily flowed faster. Suyu hurriedly tried to calm his chaotic blood flow. He was quite surprised, as this person's cultivation had already reached the peak of the Divine Master realm, which was higher than Palace Master Hua and Palace Mistress Kong Chan. Without a doubt, the person in front of him was the ruler of the outer palace, the Grand Palace Lord. There were 3 palace masters in the outer palace, 1 big and 2 small. Palace Mistress Kong Chan and Palace Mistress Hua were both young palace mistresses, while the martial-robed old man before him was the great palace master, the person with the highest authority in the outer sanctum. Even in the entire sect, his authority was second only to the left and right palace masters, and he was ranked 3rd in the sect. As soon as he appeared, the entire square fell silent. Regardless of whether it was Xue Qi's black market members or Xiao Qingfeng's black market members, they were all afraid and restless. This Grand Palace Master was famous for being stern, and his methods were extremely sharp. Upon hearing Xiao Qingfeng's tearful complaint, the Great Palace Master turned a blind eye to it. He landed on the ground expressionlessly and swept his gaze over the black market's members, who were about to start a fight. Which one of you didn't work hard to pass through the intense test and enter the outer sect? But what are you doing now? Instead of working hard to cultivate, they gathered a crowd to fight. Are you guys worthy of what you've invested? His heartfelt words touched the hearts of countless people. Indeed, the people who entered the Red Blood Palace were all geniuses who had been through many trials and tribulations. But, since when did they become muddle-headed and lose their martial arts hearts? Many people lowered their heads in shame. Everyone quieted down. The Grand Palace Master looked coldly at the two groups of people and asked, "Speak, what's going on?" Before Xue Qi could open her mouth, Xiao Qingfeng interrupted her. "They took advantage of their power to bully me, and they even conspired together to cripple my cultivation. It was fortunate that the Great Palace Master arrived in time." "Shut up! I'm asking them, not you." The Great Palace Lord glared at him coldly. Xiao Qingfeng let out a muffled groan. His blood and qi were disrupted, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He was asking about the members of the black market. Ruffian Dragon was rather fearful, but he braced himself and said, "We heard that a member of the black market tried to murder our guarantor, affecting our reputation. That's why we rushed over to rescue him." After the Great Palace Master heard this, he shifted his gaze and looked at the members of the black market on Xiao Qingfeng's side. "What about you? Tell me the truth." He emphasized on telling the truth, so no one dared to lie. At this time, Second Tiger Yang walked over and said, "Grand Palace Master, the situation is like this." He told the whole story in full detail. The Great Palace Lord listened patiently. After listening, he looked at Second Tiger Yang and said in a dignified manner, "So, he didn't lie?" Second Tiger Yang nodded. "Yes, it's true." Xiao Qingfeng's complexion turned as pale as a sheet of paper. It was over, everything was over. "Okay, let me ask you another question," the Great Palace Master said as he looked at Xiao Qingfeng. Second Tiger Yang said, "Great Palace Master, please ask me. Who controlled you?" The Great Palace Master asked expressionlessly. Upon hearing this, everyone was startled. Was Second Tiger Yang controlled by someone? However, the crowd felt relieved. Second Tiger Yang's behavior was too strange, and it didn't seem like he did it willingly. However, they couldn't discern any coercion or control from his words and actions. It could only be said that the person controlling him had mysterious means. Su Yu was startled, as he had been seen through by the Great Palace Master. Second Tiger Yang was confused. "Great Palace Master, what do you mean?" He was really confused, as he hadn't realized that he had been controlled by someone. The Great Palace Master squinted his eyes and said, "It's a terrifying soul control technique, and the person who is being controlled by it doesn't even know it. Moreover, other people couldn't even see any traces of it." All of a sudden, Second Tiger Yang turned around and ran away without any warning. The Great Palace Master wasn't surprised by this, and as he surveyed the surroundings, he said calmly, "The person controlling it is in the vicinity. I really didn't expect that our outer sanctum had hidden such an expert with a soul secret technique." As he spoke, he waved his hand, and Second Tiger Yang, who was fleeing, was captured and bound in front of the Great Palace Master. The Great Palace Master pointed his finger at him, and a bright light entered Second Tiger Yang's mind. Second Tiger Yang's whole body twitched, and a pained expression appeared on his face. It was only after 3 breaths had passed that his expression gradually became normal. He blankly surveyed the surroundings, and when his eyes regained their focus, he saw the people in front of him. Shock appeared on his face as he exclaimed, "Great! Great Palace Master!" Such an action was enough to prove that he had been controlled for a while. Do you remember who controlled you? The great palace master surveyed the surroundings and observed everyone's expression. Second Tiger Yang shook his head blankly. I don't remember. It seems like my memory of coming out of the fighting room was erased. Su Yu rejoiced inwardly, as he had erased his memory of Second Tiger Yang before he used the soul control technique on him. He had done it just in case, and he didn't expect that it would really be put to good use. The great palace master didn't notice anyone's expression, so he spoke calmly. I don't care who you are, but since you dared to control an outer sanctum's disciple and cause trouble in the outer sanctum, I won't let you off easily. Su Yu's heart shuddered, as he didn't expect that the great palace master would be lured here. This person was so powerful that Su Yu was quite wary of him. The great palace master averted his gaze from him and swept his gaze over the 3 corpses on the ground. He then looked at Second Tiger Yang and asked, Did you really kill them? Second Tiger Yang's heart thumped, and he shook his head subconsciously. But, when he met the great palace master's eyes, his whole body shivered, and he lost the courage to lie. After he struggled for a moment, he knelt on the ground and begged, Great palace master, please forgive me. It was Shao Qingfeng who ordered me to do this, and I didn't want to do it. Okay, explain this matter clearly. The great palace master didn't let his emotions show on his face. Second Tiger Yang told him everything in detail, and it was exactly the same as what he had said when he was being controlled. Although he was being controlled, Su Yu didn't ask him to tell any lies. Everything he said was the truth. It's actually true. I thought that he was being manipulated by someone to slander Shao Qingfeng. It turns out that it's all true. Everyone was quite shocked. No one could lie in front of the Grand Palace Lord. Shao Qingfeng's relaxed heart turned into an ice sculpture again. The Grand Palace Lord's expression was calm as he looked around at the crowd. Everyone was also secretly looking forward to the Grand Palace Lord's punishment. A despicable person like Shao Qingfeng must be severely punished to appease the masses. From now on, the right palace master's people are not allowed to open black markets in the outer sect. Violators will have their cultivation bases crippled. The Grand Palace Master slowly said, enunciating each word clearly. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed. In other words, the first Palace Lord wanted to offend the right Palace Lord. Su Yu's heart shuddered as he thought, what great boldness! The right Palace Master has been managing the outer sanctum for many years, but the great Palace Master has always turned a blind eye to it. Now that Shao Qingfeng poisoned an innocent disciple, Shangguan Yonk, and angered him, he wants to drive him out of the outer sanctum. Xueqi and the others were pleasantly surprised. This was an unexpected surprise. The outer sanctum's profits weren't any less than the inner sanctum's. After all, there were many outer sanctum disciples, and their profits were 10 times greater than the inner sanctum's. Thus, the black market's business was quite prosperous. Now that the right palace master's black market had been driven out, the outer sanctum would fall under the left palace master's control. Since Xueqi was the leader of this operation, she would surely get a great reward. As for you, take this as a warning. The great palace master's tone changed as he looked at Xueqi and the others. It's fine for you to open a black market in the outer sanctum, as it is necessary for it to exist. But, if you dare to harm an outer sanctum disciple for your own selfish reasons, then get lost. His stern warning made Xueqi's heart shudder. She quickly said, Great Palace Master, you can set your mind at ease. Even thieves have their own principles, and we won't commit crimes. The Great Palace Master nodded slowly, then looked at Shao Qingfeng with an ice-cold gaze. You have disgraced the outer sanctum. He then added, in 5 days, during the seasonal exam, you will go up to the stage and fight against Su Yuxian. If you win, I will let you off. But, if you lose, I will take your life on the spot. The crowd looked at each other in dismay, then looked at Su Yu. They were all confused. Does the great palace master know Su Yu? Even Su Yu was startled by this, and he wondered, did the great palace master already realize that I'm the one controlling second Tiger Yang? However, it doesn't seem like it. But, why does he want me to fight against Xiao Qingfeng? Why does he want me to decide his life and death? Xiao Qingfeng is someone who will soon die, so he will surely counterattack fiercely like a cornered beast. Could it be that I offended this old man by accident? But, this is my first time meeting the great palace master, so how could I have offended him? He looked at Palace Master Kong Chan and Palace Master Hua, who were behind him, and they both averted their gazes. They didn't dare to look at Su Yu, and it seemed like they were quite helpless. Fine, this matter has come to an end. As for how to deal with the main culprit, Xiao Qingfeng, will be decided in 5 days. As the great palace master left with his people, the people in the plaza also left excitedly. They all went back and told each other about what had happened in the plaza. As for the right palace master's black markets members, they all wore unsightly expressions as they left one after another. As for Ruffian Long and the others, they were overjoyed and went back to prepare a celebratory feast. Junior Brother Su, we must really thank you this time. You helped the left palace master get rid of the outer sanctum's great enemy. If the left palace master knows about this, he will surely reward you handsomely. Xue Qi's face was flushed, while her eyes shone with splendor. Su Yu's luck was astonishing, as he always had great luck befalling him. From the time he discovered the ghost in the elegant Spirit Mountain and exposed Master Zhang's identity as a ghost, to the time he managed to get rid of the right palace master's black market in one fell swoop. Su Yu's body was mesmerizing. It seemed like she could always witness miracles when she was with him. Su Yu shook his head and said, "You probably already know that I rejected the left palace master's camp's invitation. My heart is focused on the martial path, so I don't want to manage trifling matters." Xue Qi was disappointed, but she still didn't give up. It doesn't matter. As long as you can think it through, you can join the left palace master's camp at any time. I believe that the left palace master will welcome a person like you, as he is a person who cherishes talented people. Su Yu didn't care about this. Senior sister, can I ask you a question? Su Yu couldn't get rid of the great palace master's doubts about him. Xue Qi nodded and said, "Okay, ask me. If I know anything, I will tell you everything. May I ask whether I did something wrong, or whether I offended the great palace master? Why did you send me to deal with Xiao Qingfeng, who was at the end of his rope?" Su Yu was aware that such a blind question was quite childish. After all, even he didn't know how he had offended Xiao Qingfeng, so how could an outsider know about it? Chapter 826. Su Yu clicked his tongue. "I don't know anything. Senior sister Xue Qi, please explain it to me." The blue veins on Xue Qi's forehead throbbed, and she didn't know whether she should laugh or cry. "It's really strange. I know where you offended the great palace master, but you are the only one who doesn't know about it. I want to ask you something. Could it be that no one told you that when you entered the faction, you ran into a great calamity in the immortal confining forest?" Xue Qi asked. "Big trouble?" Su Yu was at a loss at first, but he soon had an idea. Wait, it seems like someone said that before. When Su Yu had come out of the fairy confining forest, the escort elderly, had told him that he had killed a level 5 fairy realm devilish eye Scarlet Martin and had brought great trouble upon himself. He had also told him that he mustn't leave after the carp leaping over Dragon Gate's trial, as Palace Mistress Kong Chan would come to talk to him alone. However, Su Yu's performance in the carp leaping over the Dragon Gate was outstanding, so the matter was left unsettled. Could it be related to this? Is it related to the devilish eye Scarlet Martin? Su Yu asked in confusion, as he still had a devilish eye Scarlet Martin's egg in his spatial ring. Xue Qi couldn't help but laugh. "It seems like you still know about it. That's right, it's because of this devilish eye Scarlet Martin that you caused a great disaster." What do you mean?" Wasn't that the Beast King of the 100 Beasts Valley in the immortal confining forest? He's just a level 5 fairy, so what's so great about killing him? Suyu asked in surprise. Xueqi was quite sympathetic, and she said, Hee, the evil-eyed Scarlet Martin is obviously nothing, but if this evil-eyed Scarlet Martin is the great palace master's precious granddaughter's most beloved spirit pet, would you still think that it's nothing special? The spirit pet of the granddaughter of the Grand Palace Master? Suyu was speechless. The great palace master's granddaughter went to the lifeless Sword Province to further her studies. The evil-eye Scarlet Martin that she raised was placed in the 100 Beasts Valley of the immortal confining forest. Who knew that you would kill it? When that granddaughter returns, she will be very sad. The great palace master, who loves his precious granddaughter, will definitely be heartbroken. Tell me, have you ever offended the great palace master? Suyu was dumbfounded. Was this even possible? He felt an impulse to curse out loud. That crazy devilish-eye Scarlet Martin was courting death, and Suyu was forced to kill it. So, how did it offend the great palace master? Haha, don't worry. This is just a small punishment from the Grand Palace Master. If he is really infuriated, do you think that with his temper, you would still be able to stay in the outer court? Who knows how long they've been chased away? Xueqi comforted him. I believe that even if Shao Qingfeng wants to live during the seasonal exam, he won't dare to injure you. But you will still suffer some physical pain. This is probably the great palace master's punishment for you. The corners of Suyu's mouth twitched. He was speechless. All right, I will go back to my aunt's place first. I will also discuss with Wei Jing how to quickly take over the Outer Sanctum's black market. If you need any help, just let me know, Xueqi said straightforwardly. Suyu nodded. At this moment, Shangguan Yunk, who was being supported by Shangguan Fei, bore his pain and walked over. His face was filled with shame, as he felt like he was too ashamed to show his face in front of Suyu. Brother Su, I didn't listen to your advice at that time, so I deserve to suffer now. It's my fault for implicating you in this matter. After Shangguan Yunk suffered such a setback, he became much calmer than before, and he seemed to have become more prudent. It seemed that this matter was not necessarily a bad thing for him. In the future, he would restrain himself from drinking and indulging in pleasures and focus his attention on the martial Tao. This would actually be a good thing for his future. Don't say such things. You were just deceived by him, and there is no need to apologize or thank you between us. Suyu waved his hand at him and comforted him. You should quickly go back and rest, as well as examine your injuries. Shao Qingfeng is a treacherous person, and he might have left some hidden dangers in your body. Shangguan Fei's expression became tense. That's right, Brother Yunk. Listen to Brother Su and quickly go back. Shangguan Yunk nodded and cupped his fists at Suyu. Then, he left with Shangguan Fei's support. When they reached a place where Suyu couldn't see them, Shangguan Yunk suddenly stopped in his tracks, while a resolute look flickered in his eyes. Brother Yunk, what's wrong? Shangguan Fei asked. Shangguan Yunk spoke in a deep voice. Help me write a letter and send it to Qing who is in the inner sanctum. Tell her to take out our Shangguan family's ancestral secret book, the 5 Elements Mysteries Art. Ah, Brother Yunk, why do you want to take that thing? It's a secret that has been passed down from generation to generation by our Shangguan clan's patriarchs since the ancient era. Brother Yunk, since you're going on a trip, I'll let Sister Qing take care of the patriarch for the time being. What are you going to do now? Shangguan Fei asked in surprise. The 5 Elements Profound Meaning skill was a secret skill passed down from generation to generation in the Shangguan clan. It was said that it had existed for tens of thousands of years. At that time, the Shangguan clan was said to be a huge power. However, as time went by, it gradually declined, and in the end, it fell apart. The Shangguan clan was just a small branch. However, this small branch of the Shangguan family had the secret treasure of the ancient era, the 5 Elements Profound Meaning skill. Only the core members of the family knew about it. The Shangguan family's master had originally wanted to impart it to Shangguan Yunk, but who would have thought that Shangguan Yunk wouldn't be in the mood to cultivate it? Instead, he was engrossed in having fun. So, he had no choice but to hand it over to Shangguan Qinger for safekeeping. This was to prevent the Shangguan family's master from suffering a mishap and losing this secret tome. "I'll give it to Brother Su," Shangguan Yunk said. Hearing this, Shangguan Fei was shocked. "Brother Yunk, are you crazy? This is our Shangguan clan's heirloom, how can we just give it to an outsider? Let alone the patriarch, even Sister Qing won't agree to it." Shangguan Yunk raised his head. His frivolous appearance was gone, and he now seemed wise and far-sighted. "Our family is about to be destroyed, so what's the point of guarding a secret skill? It has been 100 years since the previous Jiuzhou Emperor, Shen Yichen, was destroyed. Calculating the time, the Jiuzhou Emperor competition is about to begin again. Every time this time comes, it is the most turbulent time in the Jiuzhou continent. Countless forces will disappear in this unprecedented competition." He then added, "Recently, the 18 blessed and heavenly lands have suffered many mysterious attacks, and many factions have already been exterminated. Our Shangguan clan seems to be peaceful, but it's actually in a precarious situation. It's time for us to look for a reliable backer." Shangguan Fei was still confused. "Brother Yunk, what you said is true. Jiuzhou has been peaceful for 100 years, but it's starting to get turbulent. Now, all factions are trying to find a backer, but can't we look for a more reliable backer? We have a secret skill passed down from ancient times, and if we give it to the left and right palace masters or palace master Mo Tianxian, won't we get the protection we deserve? Brother Yunk, are you kidding me by asking Su Yu to protect our Shangguan clan? He's just an ordinary disciple, and even if he can fight people at a higher realm than him, can he fight divine masters?" Shangguan Yunk shook his head and said, "You underestimate him. Brother Su's power isn't as simple as it seems. Didn't you notice that anyone who opposed him didn't have a good ending? From the Shao family's master, Shao Yueming, to Shao Qinfeng, to the 2 divine masters who went to the elegant Spirit Mountain, none of them had a good ending. Other people may have thought that it was just a coincidence, but in my opinion, it was all done by Brother Su." He then added, "Moreover, if I'm not mistaken, the soul technique expert mentioned by the great palace master is surely Brother Su. I can't think of anyone else besides him who would take such a risk to control Second Tiger Yang and turn the situation around for me. He's surely that soul technique expert. So, his true power is definitely terrifying, and the Shangguan family will definitely be reliable if we hand it over to him." Shangguan Yunk's eyes lit up. Although he seemed careless, he was actually quite perceptive. Shangguan Fei hesitated when he heard this, but he still expressed his doubts. "I still think that it's more reliable to hand the 5-element mysteries art to great factions like the left and right palace masters and Mo Tianxian. You're oversimplifying things." Shangguan Yunk shook his head, his eyes flickering with a profound light. "The 5-element mysteries art contains too many secrets, and once we hand it over to them, our Shangguan clan won't just get protection. Instead, we'll interrogate them and even get exterminated. Otherwise, why haven't we handed it over to them in exchange for protection? This is the most important reason, as we mustn't easily hand it over to people who aren't trustworthy." He then added, "As for Brother Su, based on my observation and contact with him, I can tell that he's a person who knows how to repay favors. I only took him to the Shangguan clan and gave him a pair of blue water 9 heaven wings. Then, he saved you in the fairy confining forest, and today, he saved me at all costs. Based on this alone, I can tell that he's a trustworthy person." Shangguan Fei fell silent as he was slightly moved. Su Yu left the plaza and returned to the Demon Mountain. As soon as he entered the mountain, Gongsun Wuxie, who was wearing a purple-black pleated dress, came over to him with a smile. She hugged Su Yu's arm and looked at him with concern. Brother Yuxian, are you all right? Su Yu smiled. When he first met the little demoness, she had been this harmless, kind, and adorable black-bellied appearance. It was unknown what she was planning now. I'm fine. I'll be staying in your residence for the next few days. Sorry for bothering you, Su Yu said. Gongsun Wuxie patted her chest, which was as flat as a grassland. It's all right. I'm famous for being kind and charitable. You should listen to me the other way around. Su Yu shrugged his shoulders. He had a deep understanding of this black-bellied lowly. Gongsun Wuxie's residence was clean and tidy. It was spacious and comfortable, and it had 2 bedrooms. I'll stay upstairs, and you can stay downstairs, Gongsun Wuxie said. Brother Yuxian, you must be tired. I'll brew 2 cups of tea, so you can just wait here. Su Yu nodded, then sat patiently at the stone table and observed the furnishings in the surroundings. Although it seemed like he was observing the place casually, he had already activated his soul eyes, which could penetrate the stone wall and observe Gongsun Wuxie. How could Su Yu feel at ease drinking the tea of this black-bellied lowly? The corners of Su Yu's mouth couldn't help but twitch. He saw that the little demoness had brewed 2 cups of tea in her bedroom. However, she was now holding a purple medicine bottle, and she was pouring medicinal powder into one of the cups. The little demoness was very careful, as she didn't want to come into contact with the purple medicinal powder. It was obvious that the medicinal powder was quite troublesome. Just after that, the little demoness picked up the 2 cups of tea and revealed a crafty smile. She then resumed her smiling demeanor, and came out with the 2 cups of tea as if nothing had happened. Brother Yuxian, the tea is here. Gongsun Wuxie had 2 small dimples at the corners of her mouth, which made her look quite adorable. She then pushed one of the cups of tea in front of Su Yu. Su Yu looked at the tea and laughed inwardly. It seems like this black-bellied lowly really wanted to mess with me even before the elegant spirit mountain. Now, shouldn't I let her have a taste of her own medicine? Brother Yuxian, why are you like this? Is it because the tea doesn't taste good? Gongsun Wuxie opened her bright gem-like eyes and asked cautiously. Su Yu held the teacup with his right hand, smiled and said, It's fine. I'll drink it, so you should drink it too. Gongsun Wuxie looked at Su Yu without blinking. She drank the whole cup, then pretended to take a few sips. Chapter 8:27. Big Brother Yuxian, does it taste good? The little devil's round face showed a sweet smile. Su Yu nodded. Yes, it's delicious. At this time, the smile on the little devil's face became more and more sweet, and her eyes gradually gave birth to a trace of profound slyness. Hee hee, Big Brother Yuxian, I'm sorry, I want to say sorry to you. Su Yu was stunned. What do you mean? The little demon finally revealed her fangs and claws, and said with a smile, I accidentally dropped the 9 heavens earth extinguishing diarrhea powder that Big Brother Shanliang gave me into the tea. Big Brother Yuxian, I'm sorry. 9 heavens earth extinguishing diarrhea powder? It was said that once swallowed, one would be bedridden, unable to eat or drink for 3 months. Su Yu's expression immediately became unsightly. Wuxie, are you the one causing trouble? Bring me the antidote. If Bai Shanliang can refine poison, he can also easily refine antidotes, right? A thin layer of sweat appeared on Su Yu's forehead, and his face gradually turned pale. He covered his stomach with his hand, and his face was flushed. It's working so quickly. The little demoness was surprised, but a happy expression appeared on her face. She couldn't help but raise her head and burst into laughter. Su Yuxian, oh Su Yuxian, you've finally fallen into this grand aunt's hands. Su Yu's face turned even redder. Wuxie, what do you mean? Why are you doing this to me? The little demoness clasped her hands behind her back like an adult, then proudly skipped over to Su Yu. Her face was flushed as she said, Hee hee, why should I tell you? Right now, you've been deeply poisoned. You won't be able to participate in the seasonal exam in a few days, right? I heard that the Grand Palace Master clearly assigned you to fight Xiao Qingfeng. I wonder how the Grand Palace Master would punish you if you didn't participate in the battle? Su Yu's expression became slightly gloomy. Then what do you want? Surely you won't poison me for no reason? Hee, you're smart. If you want the antidote, there's only one way. Give me back my privileges. The little devil revealed her true purpose. Su Yu was surprised. What privilege? The little demon crossed her arms in front of her chest and said angrily, You're still playing dumb. Let me ask you, in the 50th floor of the carp leaping over the dragon gate, did you destroy the shadow I left behind? Su Yu nodded. Yes, and getting the fish dragon badge was mentioned as a special privilege. Could it be referring to this? The little demon snorted and raised his head high. He had a look on his face that said, It's good that you know. Why aren't you handing it over? What is this privilege used for? Su Yu asked. The little demon widened her eyes and tried her best to look angry. Why are you asking so many questions? Do you still want the antidote? You're going to have diarrhea soon. What startled the little demoness was that the fine sweat on Su Yu's forehead gradually disappeared, and his pale complexion became much better. Even his palm, which was covering his abdomen, gradually relaxed. You don't feel pain anymore? The little devil's eyes widened in confusion. Su Yu muttered to himself. The effects of the medicine seemed to be taking effect a little slowly. Right at this moment, the little demon suddenly froze and subconsciously covered her abdomen. She let out a soft cry and asked with a confused face, What happened to my abdomen? Su Yu's expression returned to normal, and he said with a faint smile, Of course it's because the 9 heavens earth extinction diarrhea powder has flared up. The little demon's mouth formed an O shape. That's impossible. It was clearly in your cup. How could I drink it myself? She was quite sure about the sequence of the 2 teacups, and she was sure that the one she drank was clean. You don't need to worry about that. Now, you just need to answer some of my questions. Now, it was Su Yu's turn to ask questions. The little demon realized that the situation was anything but reassuring, so she clenched her teeth, covered her abdomen, and turned around to run away. She then shouted, Sister Wuxin, save me! Su Yu wants to molest me. However, before she could even take a few steps, a hand, which was like an iron pincer, grabbed her left shoulder, while another hand covered her mouth. At the same time, Su Yu swept his foot at the door, which had just been opened, and closed it. Since the mansion was isolated from the outside world, even if the little demon screamed her lungs out, no one outside would be able to hear her. Bastard, what are you trying to do? Be careful, or I will bite you to death. The little demon turned around and gnashed her teeth. Su Yu loosened his grip on her mouth, but didn't loosen his grip on her shoulder. He then said with a faint smile, I just want you to answer several questions that I want to know. Otherwise, once the medicine's effects take effect, you will have diarrhea in front of me. Don't even think about it. The little demon's whole body shivered. She was a level 9 fairy, and her physical power and vital energy were both greater than Su Yu's. However, when she had just started using her cultivation technique, her face twitched, while beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. As the medicine's effects took effect, she felt a stabbing pain in her abdomen when she tried to use her vital energy. This was the 9 heavens earth extinguishing diarrhea powder's power, as it could affect one's vital energy circulation. Otherwise, the poisoned person could just use his vital energy to suppress it and expel the medicine's effects from his body. So, how could he be poisoned? Not only was the little demon unable to use her vital energy, but it also caused her vital energy to flow in reverse, which caused all of her limbs to twitch. Her small body became soft and she fell down. Su Yu stretched out his thigh and stopped her, causing her to lie on his thigh and raise her small round buttocks high up in the air. Ah, bastard! Let go of me! Otherwise I will. The little demon gnashed her teeth, while brandishing her claws. Su Yu chuckled and asked, Answer my question. What's the use of the privilege of the 50th layer? Why are you so persistent in obtaining it? He had witnessed with his own eyes that the little demon didn't hesitate to spend 100,000 merit points to challenge the carp leaping over Dragon Gate again, just to get back the privilege of the 50th layer. I won't tell you. If you don't let go of me, I will shout for help. The little demon was quite stubborn. Slap. When her voice just echoed out, her but was slapped heavily. The little demon's voice came to an abrupt end, and her whole body shivered as if she had been electrocuted. Her cute face became flushed, and she was both angry and scared. You! What did you do to me? You dared to slap my butt. Slap! The little demon's body shivered once again as he slapped her again. Her pretty face became so flushed that it seemed like it would drip water at any moment. You are a shameless pervert. I'm a girl. Suyu curled his lips and said, You are just 10 years old, and in my eyes you are just a child. The little demon was on the verge of tears, and she spoke angrily. Who said that I'm just 10 years old? Slap. However, Suyu didn't even finish listening to her, as he slapped her once again. The little demon was infuriated. Speak. Otherwise, I will keep hitting you until the drug's effects take effect. You don't want to have diarrhea in front of me, do you? Suyu said playfully. This black-bellied loli was always pranking others, and now it was her turn. The little demon was both angry and embarrassed, but since someone had a handle on her, she could only swallow her anger and say, Fine. I will speak. The carp leaping over Dragon Gate has more than 50 steps, and every step has a privilege. Since you are standing on the 50th layer, you will naturally get the 50th layer's privilege. This privilege is to enter Tianya City and take up a shopkeeper's position. Tianya City? Suyu was at a loss, as he didn't know much about it. The little demoness said, Tianya City is the border city between the 18 blessed and heavenly lands and the central prefecture. It's also the biggest trading city. There are many martial artists and peddlers coming and going from both places. The 18 blessed and heavenly lands produce all kinds of demonic beasts and natural treasures from the immortal confining forest, while the central prefecture produces all kinds of spiritual pills and magical treasures. Therefore, the trade there is very prosperous. It's known as the #1 trading city in the 18 blessed and heavenly lands, and the 18 great factions have shops in Tianya City. He then added, the 50th layer's privilege is to enter Tianya City and work as a shopkeeper in one of the Red Blood Palace's properties. You'll be in charge of a store for a month, and if your performance reaches a certain standard, you'll get 10,000 merit points as a reward. If you manage to surpass the target, you'll get even more merit points. Suyu was slightly surprised by this, so he asked, Even if you meet the requirements, you will only get 10,000 merit points. Didn't you spend more than 100,000 merit points just to try the carp leaping over Dragon Gate's challenge? Don't tell me you're confident that you can surpass your expectations? The fact that the little fiend was so persistent meant that she was extremely confident that she would be able to obtain a reward of over 100,000 merit points. You don't have to worry about that. Little Devil didn't explain anymore, as if there was something she was hiding. Suyu didn't question her any further, as this was her private affair, and he didn't want to delve into it. I still have another question. You already have enough merit points, so why do you still want to obtain more? Suyu was slightly curious. Since she needed several 100,000 merit points, could it be that the little fiend was eyeing the high-grade legendary cultivation technique in the depository of scriptures? Upon hearing this, the little fiend looked at Suyu strangely. Don't you know that everyone is trying to accumulate merit points for the Glittering Jewel Wonderland? The Glittering Jewel Wonderland. Suyu seemed to have heard Bing Wuxin mention it once. The reason she had stayed in the outer sanctum was the Glittering Jewel Wonderland. The little fiend rolled her eyes. I really don't know how you managed to sneak into the Red Blood Palace. You don't even know about the Glittering Jewel Wonderland. The Glittering Jewel Wonderland is a historical remnant left behind by a Jiuzhou emperor in the past, and all of his inheritances are within it. It appears once every 100 years, and it will open in half a year. If the Red Blood Palace's disciples want to enter it, they must exchange for it with 4 million merit points. The inner sanctum's disciples and the outer sanctum's powerful people are all trying to accumulate merit points in order to enter it. I'm still short of several 100,000 merit points, so I'm looking for merit points everywhere. Sister Wuxin and the others are also doing the same. Only you know nothing about it. Upon hearing this, Su Yu was startled. The historical remnant left behind by the Jojo Emperor? All the previous Jojo emperors were the strongest people in the Jojo continent. They were the emperors of a generation, and they were the unparalleled heavenly kings. Such a person's cultivation had already surpassed all creations and reached an unimaginable level. In the past, Shen Yichen, the future Jojo emperor, was heavily injured and on the verge of death, yet he was still able to reshape Jojo and create a new world. How powerful was the real Jojo emperor? The historical remnant left behind by him could even move an all creation's old monster. Su Yu's heart palpitated with excitement. Such an inheritance was probably unique in the Jojo continent. All the influences in the world, including the other Jojo continents, are coveting it. They all want to enter it and seize the Jojo Emperor's imprint. It's the same for the 9 prefectures' kings. It can be said that this is a century-old historical remnant that has shaken the whole Jojo continent. If someone obtains the complete historical remnant of the glittering Jewel Fairy Emperor, it will be enough to change the continent's destiny and affect the world's situation. No one will let go of this historical remnant. Su Yu's heart was moved, as he knew that he must definitely go and explore such a peerless historical remnant. Su Yu's intuition told him that he might get a great opportunity in the historical remnant, which would be better than cultivating quietly in the Red Blood Palace. However, when he found out that he had to exchange for it with 4 million merit points, Su Yu couldn't help but smile bitterly. He only had 2,000 merit points left, which wasn't even enough to pay off his debt. It seemed like he would have to use the special authority that the little demoness coveted to go to Tianya City. Hurry up and let me go. The little demoness' face became flushed, and panic and anger appeared on her face. The medicine's power was starting to take effect, and she was about to have diarrhea. After getting her answer, Su Yu let go of her. The little demoness was immediately freed, and she bent her waist and walked quickly to the toilet. As she ran, she turned her head back and glared at Su Yu fiercely. Be ****. You better remember this, as we aren't finished yet. Su Yu chuckled, and when he was about to go back to his room to rest, his expression suddenly changed. Su Yu surveyed his surroundings, then entered his room and closed the door and windows. He then took out a purple badge from his spatial ring. He had gotten this badge from Yuan Wanbi's personal maid, Xiao Tao, and it was the Severed Fairy Cliff's identity badge. In the past, a test mission had appeared on the badge, and it was to help the Situ family's Situ Yen enter the Red Blood Palace. Su Yu had almost forgotten about this badge, but now it suddenly had a reaction. Not only did it emit a purple light, but it also became scalding hot and emitted powerful fluctuations. When Su Yu took it out and took a look at it, he noticed that a line of small words was flickering on it. Chapter 828. Su Yu's eyes lit up as he held the badge in his hand. He then took advantage of the darkness to leave the sanctum and sneak into the fairy confining forest's 100 Beasts Valley. Half a day later, Su Yu carefully arrived at the entrance of the valley, but there was no one else there. When Su Yu was just about to look around, the purple badge changed once again. It said, "The meeting place has changed. Head east for 300,000 miles. You will arrive in half a cup of tea's time." The members of the Severed Fairy Cliff are really careful, Su Yu thought to himself. Then, he followed the instructions and headed 300,000 miles east. Then, the token changed its destination several times. It was only half a day later that the real meeting place appeared. Su Yu followed the instructions and went back to the 100 Beasts Valley's entrance. There, a man wearing a silver mask stood with his hands behind his back. Suyu had an impression of this person, as he was the masked man who had helped the Sidhu family recruit helpers. Hee lad, we meet again. The masked man had a deep impression of Suyu, so he chuckled. Suyu cupped his hands at him and said, Senior, it took me a long time to find you. I went around in circles for most of the night, yet I still ended up here. As someone from the severed fairy cliff, it is only natural for one to be a bit more careful. The reason why I asked you to go in circles was to confirm whether or not you brought anyone else with you, said the masked man. Suyu sighed. Now, are you sure that I came here alone? The masked man faintly smiled. Take out the token. Congratulations on passing the test. Now, you can engrave your name on the token. From now on, you are officially a member of the Severed Fairy Cliff. Suyu was curious. Why did you only confirm the completion of the mission after 2 months? It's true that you've completed the mission a long time ago. But before that, it took a lot of time to investigate your identity and background. 2 months is considered short. There are even people who have waited for 2 years. The masked man said, Through the investigation, you are not from any major force. There is no problem with your identity. Now I will carve your name. In the future, you will be under my management. Investigate his identity? Suyu's eyes flickered slightly. It seemed like the Severed Fairy Cliff hadn't found out Suyu's origins and could only confirm that he didn't have a fixed residence. Suyu took out the badge and handed it to the masked man. The masked man took out an extremely peculiar luminous pen. Suyu had only taken a casual glance at it, but his heart trembled when he saw it. The spiritual pressure emitted by the luminous brush was almost tangible. A fairy artifact's fragment? Suyu was startled. He couldn't believe that a random divine master could take out a fairy artifact's fragment. It seemed like the masked man had discerned Suyu's doubt, so he didn't even raise his head as he carved Suyu's name on it. He then said, It's just a fragment of a fairy artifact, so it's nothing amazing. If you become a blue member of the Severed Fairy Cliff, you will be rewarded with a semi-manufactured fairy artifact. A semi-manufactured, immortal artifact as a gift? Suyu's heart skipped a beat. The Severed Fairy Cliff's foundation was really terrifying. How do I become a blue member? Suyu's interest in the Severed Fairy Cliff was piqued. The masked man raised his head and smiled. Haha, don't be impatient. As your manager, I will tell you in detail. After a while, the masked man threw the token back and put away the luminous pen. When Suyu looked at it, he saw that the once glossy purple badge now had the words Suyushin carved on it. This will be your identity token from now on. With this token, you can do 2 things. First, accept missions, and second, issue missions. He then added, Every month, a random mission will appear in the token, and if you accept it, you must carry it out according to the token's instructions. After a while, the person who issued the mission will contact me to confirm whether the mission was completed or not. Then, I will give you the mission's reward, which includes an object reward and a senzu bean for completing a mission. Suyu asked, What are senzu beans? The masked man explained patiently, The reward for accepting a mission is divided into 2 parts. One part comes from the person who issued the mission, such as crystals, while the other part is given by the Severed Fairy Cliff. It's the reward for completing a mission, which is the Severed Fairy Cliff's reward, senzu beans. He then added, The use of senzu beans is to raise your membership level from a purple member to a blue member. This also answers your previous question. How can I become a blue member? The masked man then added, As for the amount needed to level up, it's quite simple. You need 10,000 senzu beans, and you can get a senzu bean every time you carry out a mission. Suyu felt like a bucket of cold water had just been poured on him. He wondered, Do I need to carry out 10,000 missions to become a blue member? Are there other ways to get senzu beans? Suyu asked. The masked man chuckled helplessly, then said, Youngsters nowadays are really impatient. just listen to me. The first part is about accepting missions, while the second part is about assigning missions. He then added, you can use the purple token to accept missions, and you can also use it to assign missions. The method of assigning missions is to inject a drop of your blood essence into the token, and I will sense it and guide you to a designated place to meet me. You will then have to explain the mission in detail to me, and I will assign it to the other members under my management. Suyu nodded slowly. Remember, every time you assign a mission, you will need to consume a senzu bean, the masked man said. Suyu furrowed his brows. Does this mean that I can only start accumulating 10,000 merit points by accepting missions unceasingly? However, there is an exception. Moreover, not only won't you consume a senzu bean, but you can also get a senzu bean. The masked man's voice became heavier. It was obvious that this was an extremely important matter. I can still get a senzu bean? That is, the assignment mission's reward is more than 100,000 crystals, the masked man said. He then added, for example, if you want to kill a person and assign a mission with a reward of 100,000 crystals, then you won't need to consume a senzu bean. Instead, you will get a senzu bean as an additional reward from the Severed Fairy Cliff. The Severed Fairy Cliff encourages its members to use large amounts of money to assign missions, so they will take 20% of the mission's reward as a commission. This is why the higher the reward, the more senzu beans you will get as a reward. If you assign a mission with a reward of 200,000 crystals, then after the mission is completed, you will get 2 senzu beans as a reward, and so on and so forth. For every 100,000 crystals, you will get a senzu bean as a reward. Suyu couldn't help but smile bitterly. He had to assign a mission with a reward of 100,000 crystals in order to get a senzu bean. Suyu would have to assign a mission with a reward of 1,000,000,000 crystals in order to get 10,000 senzu beans and become a blue member, then get a semi-manufactured fairy artifact as a reward. However, 1,000,000,000 crystals were enough to buy 10 fairy artifacts, right? Moreover, a semi-manufactured fairy artifact didn't seem worth it at all. Lad, don't think too much about it. I spent 200 years just to become a blue member, and I'm now in charge of the 18 blessed and heavenly lands purple members. It's still too early for you to become a blue member. You just need to focus on accumulating resources. Moreover, if you have a mission that you want to assign, you can leave it to me. There are countless experts among the purple members that I manage, including 10 late-stage divine masters and an all-creation expert. As long as you can pay them a price that can tempt them, they will be able to help you accomplish anything, including killing your enemies. Suyu's pupils contracted slightly. There is even an all-creation level purple member? If I ask him to be my assassin, won't I be able to kill anyone I want? The Severed Fairy Cliff's resources are really terrifying. I will follow Senior's instructions. I really want to assign a mission, but I need to wait for a while, as I'm short on money now, Suyu said. The masked man nodded slightly. Okay, tell me about it first. I can help you record it, and when you have enough crystals or money, I will officially assign it to you. Suyu then asked, Senior, if I need some real dragon spirit veins, is it possible to find them? Real dragon spirit veins? The masked man was slightly startled, and he couldn't help but size Suyu up. Are you sure that you didn't ask the wrong question? All real spirits are expensive existences, and any part of them is priceless. Moreover, a real dragon spirit veins is worth at least 10 million crystals on the market. 10 million crystal stones was an astronomical figure, even for the 18 sections. Senior, please be at ease. I have my ways to get them, Suyu said calmly. The masked man was startled, and a glimmer of hope appeared in his eyes. As the purple member manager of the 18 blessed and heavenly lands, he would get a 1% commission on the resources that were assigned to the members under his charge. At the same time, when his funds reached a certain amount, he would also get fairy beans, which he could use to increase his members' rank. He naturally valued members like Suyu, who might have a large amount of money. Then I will look forward to it. I will record the mission for you, and when you have enough money, I will immediately assign it to you. The masked man chuckled and became more polite. Suyu cupped his hands at him, then turned around and left. As the masked man watched Suyu leave, he muttered softly, "This lad is really arrogant, and it seems like he really can get 10 million crystals. Let's wait and see whether it's true or not." All of a sudden, the masked man's waist flickered, and he took out a purple badge. "Well, did someone assign a mission to you?" After returning to the Demon Mountain, Suyu pretended that nothing had happened and went back to his room to cultivate. However, after he started cultivating for a short while, the purple badge emitted a sound. When Suyu took it out and looked at it, he was startled. The purple badge's mission was to find a diarrhea powder that no one can find. The reward is 100,000 crystals. Is it a little demoness? The corners of Suyu's mouth couldn't help but twitch. This little girl didn't want to give up, and she still wanted to find an even more powerful diarrhea powder. However, Suyu was quite surprised that Gongsun Wuxia was also a member of the Severed Fairy Cliff. Suyu pretended that he didn't know anything about this. 4 days passed in the blink of an eye, and the seasonal exam finally arrived. The Outer Sanctum's disciples were already very familiar with the routine exam. But they were all looking forward to it. This was because the Great Palace Master had appointed Suyu to fight against Xiao Qinfeng several days ago. If Xiao Qinfeng lost, then the Great Palace Master would take his life on the spot as a punishment for framing an Outer Sanctum's disciple. But if Xiao Qinfeng won, then he wouldn't be able to save his life. They could almost imagine that Xiao Qinfeng would fight like a mad dog in order to win. Moreover, Suyu's cultivation was just at the level 3 fairy realm, so how could he be a match for the level 8 fairy realm Xiao Qinfeng? There was a great disparity between them. Regardless of whether Suyu was willing or not, the exam had finally arrived. Many people wanted to witness Xiao Qinfeng's fate. Suyu was one of them. After plotting against him many times, he could finally put an end to it on this day. In the secret room, Suyu suddenly opened his eyes, while a giant black dragon roared in his chest. Chapter 829. Suyu Xian, come out. A soft shout was heard from outside the mansion. Bing Wuxin was holding her sword with a cold look on her face. Suyu opened the door and walked out. When he saw Bing Wuxin's attitude, he felt like something was amiss. When he glanced at her again, he saw the little demoness, who was wiping her tears. She looked pitiful, as if she had suffered great injustice. "What's the matter?" Suyu asked. Bing Wuxin rebuked him angrily. "Don't you know what you did to Wuxia?" Suyu didn't deny it. "I helped her try my 9 heavens earth extinguishing diarrhea powder. What's wrong with that? Is it wrong to help others?" Upon hearing this, the little demoness wiped away her tears and glared at Suyu fiercely. She clenched her teeth tightly. She had been trying to hit a goose all day long, only to end up getting pecked by it. She already told me that she was in the wrong first. "So, she can't blame you," Bing Wuxin said. Suyu was bewildered. If that wasn't the case, why was Bing Wuxin so angry? "I'm asking you, what else did you do to Wuxia after this?" Bing Wuxin asked angrily. "What else did I do?" Suyu mulled it over for a moment, then replied blankly, "Nothing. I just interrogated her and spanked her. That's all. I was in seclusion for the past 5 days, while she was trying to detoxify herself. So we didn't have any contact." Unexpectedly, Bing Wuxin glared at him angrily. "Shameless. You spanked Wuxia's butt, yet you still dare to say that it's all right? Didn't anyone teach you that men and women shouldn't touch each other?" Suyu was speechless. "She's just a naughty child, so what's wrong with spanking her butt? You are making a big fuss over a minor issue." The little demoness clenched her fists and blushed. She then shouted angrily, "You are the child. Your whole family is made up of children." Bing Wuxin was flabbergasted. She looked at Su Yu for a moment before an odd look appeared on her face. Do you really not know that Wuxia is only 19 years old? Oh, 19 years old? Isn't she a child? Wait, 19 years old? Her? Su Yu came back to his senses. He was startled, and he couldn't help but size up the little demoness. She had a tender little face and a flat chest that hadn't developed. All of these were the characteristics of a 10-year-old girl. Pervert. The little demoness covered her chest hurriedly and said angrily, What are you looking at? My breasts are just very reserved. Bing Wuxin said with a cold face, When Wuxia was 10 years old, she ate a mysterious elixir. That's why her body was fixed in the state of a 10-year-old. Her real age is 19 years old. So, do you think spanking her is an offense? Su Yu's mind was in a mess. A 19-year-old two-faced lowly? You're my lover in name, so you'd better behave yourself. Otherwise, if you ruin my reputation, I won't forgive you. Bing Wuxin knew that it was a misunderstanding, and her murderous aura weakened a lot. But she still warned him. Su Yu couldn't help but curl his lips. Who would want to be the lover of a fierce woman like you? What did you say? You want to fight me now, don't you? Bing Wuxin raised her brows and asked coldly. Su Yu could not stand her unreasonable behavior. Cough, cough, quarreling so early in the morning. What an enviable couple. Bai Shanliang came out of the West Mansion and said with a smile. Su Yu rolled his eyes. It was this guy who had suggested it. As for Bing Wuxin, she glared at him. Fine, you should all go to participate in the seasonal exam. You might run into each other in the arena and you can kill each other at that time. Bai Shanliang's face shivered as he was looked down upon by both of them. At this moment, a handsome man walked out of the South Mansion. He had an enchanting look on his face as he said, Humph, I will risk my life against anyone who dares to bully Brother Yuxian today. Tianrenyao looked at Su Yu affectionately as he spoke. Su Yu's whole body shivered. He really couldn't understand what part of him attracted Tianrenyao's attention. After all, he was now an old man, and he couldn't see anything special about him. Fine, let's set off. But, before we enter the venue, I want to emphasize something. Bai Shanliang, who was the leader of the 5 demons, said, For many years, we, the Demon Mountain, have always been the Outer Sanctum's flag and moral model. We're all public figures, so we should pay attention to our words and actions. We mustn't affect the Demon Mountain's glorious image. Do you understand? Apart from Su Yu, the other 3 demons nodded earnestly. The Demon Mountain's glorious image? Su Yu was embarrassed. All of the Outer Sanctum's disciples had gathered at the venue, which could accommodate tens of thousands of people. Regardless of whether they were cultivating in seclusion all year round or carrying out missions outside, they would all rush back to participate in the seasonal assessment. This assessment was the Sanctum's way of testing the disciples' progress in the past season. If they didn't make any progress for a long time, the Sanctum might deduct their merit points. In serious cases, they might even expel them from the Sanctum. Thus, no one dared to be careless. It was an unprecedentedly grand and lively event, and there was a sea of people. It was so crowded that people were rubbing shoulders with one another. As far as the eye could see, it was filled with a dense mass of people. However, there was only one place, which was the most suitable center of the venue, which had a large number of empty seats. No one went there. A rough count revealed that there were several hundred empty seats. Compared to the dense mass of people, the empty space seemed abrupt and out of place. Su Yu, who was in the middle of this empty space, was speechless. Is this the Demon Mountain's glorious image that you were talking about? At this moment, Bai Shanliang, Tianrenyao, and Gongsun Wuxia all wore friendly smiles as they looked at the surrounding crowd. They waved their hands and shouted from time to time, Junior brothers and sisters, come here quickly. There are good seats for spectators here. Even Bing Wuxin didn't wear a cold expression, which was rare. However, the crowd's reaction was the opposite of what they had hoped for. Let's go quickly. Look at Western Poison. His smile is so sinister. He's probably going to find someone to try his newly refined poisonous elixirs. It's said that all those who were caught by him to try his elixirs didn't come back unscathed. Also, look at Eastern Heretic. He's smiling so wickedly. He must be up to no good. Everyone, pay attention and avoid him. Also, look at Southern Demon. Oh my God! He's looking at me. I must run away quickly. Damn it. I won't participate in the assessment, but I mustn't be targeted by a human demon. That's related to my reputation. Not only did they not get forgiven for their friendly greetings, but they all retreated in fright, as if they had encountered a ghost. In an instant there were another 100 empty seats around them. Now, a tenth of the huge arena was empty. Gongsun Wuxie's sweet smile stiffened, and she clenched her fists tightly. She then said fiercely, "A group of people who don't know what's good for them. After the competition is over, I will poison all of you to death." Upon hearing this, the crowd became even more horrified, and they once again moved away from each other. They would rather squeeze with each other than stay close to the 4 demons. Did you hear that? They really don't have any good intentions. They actually want to poison us to death. The demons are really too terrifying. Humph. I really don't understand why our Demon Mountain's good tradition of being kind and helpful to others is always misunderstood. Gongsun Wuxie snorted softly. That's right. It's rare for me to treat you kindly, yet you treat me like this. Aren't you afraid of hurting my feelings? Tian Renyao spoke resentfully. Bai Shanliang coughed out a mouthful of blood and lamented bitterly. Sigh. Our Demon Mountain's glorious image. Su Yu rolled his eyes. What a bunch of weirdos. Dong. The sound of a bell's chime could be heard. 3 people arrived on clouds. They were the Outer Sanctum's 3 palace masters. They were the Great Palace Master and the 2 Lesser Palace Masters. After the 3 palace masters took their seats, an elder announced, "The seasonal assessment will now begin. The assessment will be divided into 10 areas, and it will be carried out at the same time. They will be arranged according to the order in which they entered the sect." The host quickly made arrangements. Bai Shanliang, Bing Wuxin, Gongsun Wuxie, and Tian Renyao were separated on purpose. Su Yu was among the last batch of people to enter the sanctum, so he was randomly assigned to the 10th area. Bing Wuxin had been paying attention to Su Yu all along, and when she learned that he had gone to the 10th area, she couldn't help but say coldly, "It seems like we won't get a chance to compete in the arena. Let's just go back to the Demon Mountain and have a good fight there." The seasonal assessment wasn't a ranking competition, and it was just a competition to determine whether the disciples' power had improved in the past season. The disciples of different areas wouldn't get a chance to fight each other. You're welcome to do so at any time. Su Yu felt a headache coming on. Just after that, everyone went to their respective areas. Su Yu found Xiao Qingfeng in the 10th area. He was being guarded by a Divine Master Realm Elder at all times, so he couldn't escape. Xiao Qingfeng was the strongest person in the 10th area, as he was, after all, ranked 10th among the Outer Sanctum's experts. What was even more unfortunate was that the person in charge of the 10th area was none other than the Raging Flame Cabinet's master, the Alluring Cabinet Master. She was still as charming as ever, and she was the center of attention as she stood in the arena. Almost 30% of the men in the area were attracted by her. All of a sudden, she saw Su Yu from afar, and her eyes lit up. She cast him a flirtatious glance and sent him a message with a smile. "You heartless lad. You still haven't come to visit me in such a long time. You have really hurt my feelings." Su Yu was speechless, and he wondered, doesn't this woman feel uncomfortable if she doesn't flirt with me on purpose? What made him even more speechless was that, in the eyes of the onlookers, they seemed to be exchanging flirtatious glances with each other. Many senior disciples among the 10th area's disciples were already rubbing their palms, and they were all preparing to teach Su Yu a lesson. Su Yu was the only one among the 5 demons who hadn't been tested by anyone yet. Many people had already set their eyes on him, and they all wanted to test him. The first test is the Vital Energy Intensity Test. The Raging Flame Cabinet's master wore a smile as she looked at Suyu, who was suffering from the crowd's jealousy. She then announced the start of the test. There was a giant stone sword in the 10th area, which had 9 sword scars carved on it. These scars represented 9 different vital energy intensities. A level 1 fairy's vital energy could only form a single sword scar, while a level 2 fairy could form 2 sword scars, and so on. As for a level 9 fairy, it could form 9 sword scars. As for divine masters, it was impossible for the sword body to detect them. This was actually a test of one's cultivation, as different cultivations determined different cultivation intensities. The crowd tested their vital energy intensities according to the order in which they entered the test. Some people's vital energy intensities were quite outstanding, and one of them was Xiao Qingfeng. The onlookers only knew that his cultivation was at the level 8 fairy realm, but after they tested him, they discovered that his vital energy was almost at the level of 9 sword scars. The test's results were quite shocking. Great Palace Master, it's really a pity for Xiao Qingfeng. If he hadn't made a grave mistake, he might have been a good seedling in the future. Pity flickered in Palace Master Hua's eyes. Palace Mistress Kong Chan nodded slightly, as she agreed with his words. However, she was more concerned about Suyu, as he would probably be in grave danger in this battle. Let's wait and see, the Great Palace Master said calmly. Chapter 830. Suyu Xin, come up. The alluring cabinet master's eyes were filled with curiosity as she looked at Suyu. She really wanted to know what Suyu's cultivation level was, and she wanted to know whether he was just a level 3 fairy realm cultivator. After all, he was someone who could fight Jian Wuxing, who was at the same cultivation level as him, so he shouldn't be an ordinary person. Xiao Qingfeng's expression was quite relaxed. Even if Suyu managed to fight Jian Wuxing, who had the same cultivation level as him, Xiao Qingfeng was still a level 8 fairy, and there was a great disparity between their power. In his opinion, the Grand Palace Master had intentionally spared his life. What's there to see? It's at most 3 sword scars. In the spectator seats, there were a few people dressed differently. They were either outer sect elders or inner sect disciples who came to watch the battle. Lao Ai and Wei Zheng were among them. The two of them represented the right Palace Master and the left Palace Master to find new disciples with potential and pull them into their camp. The rumor that Suyu had fought Jian Wuxing, who was at the same cultivation level as him, had spread like wildfire. So, they naturally paid close attention to Suyu. At the same time, there were also some people with mysterious backgrounds who were quietly observing Suyu. Is this the rumored outer court disciple who fought Jian Wuxing to a draw? You're really just a level 3 fairy, a fair-skinned, arrogant woman said as she looked at Suyu. Next to her was a smiling young man. Junior Sister He, we're here on Junior Sister Bing's orders to test out this outer sect disciple. Now is the time to observe. If he doesn't even qualify for us to make a move, it will save us the trouble. Is there still a need to look? As a matter of fact, Junior Sister Bing was just too sensitive about Jian Wuxing. After all, he was just a trifling level 3 fairy. Just by looking at the True Qi strength test, we can see some clues. Junior Martial Sister He was somewhat disdainful. The smiling youth took a deep look at Suyu, then said profoundly, I feel that this lad most likely has something outstanding about him. The vital energy intensity assessment might surprise us. How much could his Zhenqi reach? Junior Martial Sister He shook her head disapprovingly. The smiling youth said, I don't think that's necessarily the case. This lad's vital energy's intensity is probably close to the level 4 fairy realm. It's only because of this that he might be able to fight Jian Wuxing, who was at the same level as him. Junior Sister He frowned but did not say anything. On the bench, Palace Mistress Kong Chan and Palace Mistress Hua also fixed their gazes on the 10th region. This lad's vital energy's intensity shouldn't be low, Palace Master Hua said with a smile. If it's close to 3.5 sword strikes, it'll be pretty good, and after cultivating for a while, he'll be able to advance into the level 4 fairy realm. Palace Mistress Kong Chan nodded slowly. I also believe that it can surpass 3.5 sword strikes. Upon hearing this, the great palace master looked at Su Yu and shook his head slightly. You have all underestimated him. The intensity of his vital energy isn't just 3.5 sword strikes. It's probably close to 4 sword strikes. The two young palace masters were slightly surprised. In that case, he won't be far from reaching the level 4 fairy realm. In just 2 short months, he managed to advance from the level 1 fairy realm to the level 4 fairy realm. His cultivation speed is really fast, and he's almost catching up to the inner sanctum's top freak. At the same time, the ordinary disciples also looked over. After all, the strength of the newly advanced central demon was still a mysterious unknown. Moreover, there was a rumor that he had fought Jian Wuxing, who was at the same cultivation level as him, which made people even more curious. On the stage, Su Yu, who was in front of the sword body, pondered this matter. It seemed like he didn't need to use his whole vital energy, and if he hid a part of his power, he could use it to threaten Xiao Qingfeng. Just as he was about to suppress his vital energy and hide his power, the alluring cabinet mistress's eyes flickered. She then said, "The examinees must remember to use their whole power. The sword body's senses are quite sharp, and if it detects that the examinee is hiding something, it will sound an alarm, and the examinee will be disqualified from the exam on the spot. You will have to face the wall and reflect on your mistakes for a year." Su Yu raised his brows. There was such a rule? It was no wonder that all the people in front of him used their whole power. He had 2 dantians, so if he used just one of them, could the sword body detect it? After Su Yu mulled this over for a moment, he gave up on taking such a risk. He gathered the vital energy in his 2 dantians, condensed it into his right fist, and punched the sword body. Buzz! 3 sword marks immediately shone, which proved that Su Yu's vital energy had reached the level 3 fairy realm. However, the sword mark's radiance didn't stop, and it continued rising. Xiao Qingfeng snorted softly. I really didn't expect that your vital energy would be so pure. It will soon reach 3.5 sword strikes. As his voice echoed out, the radiance overcame the 3.5 sword strikes and advanced toward the 4th sword strike. His vital energy's purity might be close to the 4th sword strike? Xiao Qingfeng was slightly surprised by this, as he recalled that Su Yu had just advanced to the level 3 fairy realm before he came back from the elegant spirit mountain. So, how did he manage to reach the level 4 fairy realm in just a few days? After a short while, the radiance reached the level 4 fairy realm's threshold. Junior sister He, who was among the spectators, nodded calmly. Senior brother Lu really got it right. He will soon reach the level 4 fairy realm. But, even then, it's still impossible for him to fight Jian Wuxing, who has the same cultivation level as him. Surprise appeared on the faces of Palace Mistress Kong Chan and Palace Mistress Hua. This lad's cultivation speed is too fast. The great palace master looked at Su Yu and nodded slowly. It can't be wrong. He will soon advance to the level 4 fairy realm. Wait, what's going on? At the same time, the whole spectators were bewildered, and many of their gazes were fixed on the sword body. This was because the radiance didn't stop there. Instead, it went straight past the 4th sword mark. What's going on? Su Yu's cultivation is obviously at the level 3 fairy realm, so how can his vital energy reach the level 4 fairy realm? Someone cried out in alarm. The intensity of one's vital energy was a sign of one's cultivation. When the dantian's vital energy reached a certain level, it would give rise to a great pressure, which would cause the dantian to be unable to bear it. As such, the dantian would expand, which meant that one's cultivation would rise by a level. However, it didn't make sense that Su Yu's vital energy, which was at the level 4 fairy realm, wouldn't expand in response. Could it be that his dantian was innately different from ordinary people's, which was why it didn't expand? Shock appeared on the faces of the 3 palace masters, while the 2 lesser palace masters were baffled. This was the first time they had seen such a strange matter. The great palace master muttered to himself, "It's really strange. Could it be that his dantian is bigger than ordinary people's and can contain more vital energy?" It couldn't be denied that the great palace master's guess was close to the truth. However, he was bewildered when he discovered that the radiance didn't stop there. It continued rising, and it went straight past the 5th sword mark. Impossible! Xiao Qingfeng was startled. How could a level 3 fairy realm possibly contain a level 5 fairy realm's vital energy? Was his dantian twice as big as an ordinary person's? If that was really the case, wouldn't it mean that Su Yu only had his dantian? Unless he wasn't a human, it was surely impossible. An uproar broke out among the crowd, as Su Yu's nature-defying dantian was shocking. The great palace master was also startled, as he didn't know what was going on. A human's dantian couldn't possibly reach the size of 2 fists. This question lingered in everyone's minds for a long time. In the audience's seat, the smiling youth couldn't help but laugh. He's really an unconventional existence. Now, I believe that the rumors are true, and that he fought Jian Wuxing to a draw. Junior sister, he snorted coldly. Even a level 5 fairy realm's vital energy can't defeat a level 3 fairy realm's Jian Wuxing. Let's continue watching. After all of the region's tests had ended, the 10th region was the most surprising one. Central Demon Supreme, who everyone was paying attention to, had astonished everyone with his outrageous vital energy's intensity. The second test will be the body constitution test. The alluring cabinet mistress's eyes lit up as she looked at Su Yu. The body constitution test mainly tested one's fleshly body's power. When martial artists cultivated, they cultivated their vital energy internally, while they cultivated their fleshly body externally. This test was obviously extremely important. The fleshly body test was quite simple, as they were just required to carry cuboid stones. Each stone was only the size of a fist, and they were specially made by the sanctum. A level 1 fairy could only lift 10 of them, even if he used his whole power. In other words, lifting one would require a tenth of an elephant's power. This way, the examinee's power could be accurately measured. The 10th region's tests quickly started. Unlike the vital energy's intensity, one's fleshly body's power wasn't limited by one's cultivation. Some people who were accomplished in body-refining techniques had shocking fleshly bodies. Many disciples with good fleshly bodies appeared in the 10th region. One of them was a level 7 fairy realm outer sanctum disciple, yet he managed to lift 81 stones. This meant that his fleshly body's power had reached a tenth of an elephant's power, which was even greater than an expert who had just advanced to the level 8 fairy realm. Only a level 8 fairy realm's fleshly body's power could reach level 8 fairies' power. This person's appearance attracted the attention of many disciples. The other person, Xiao Qingfeng, also attracted a lot of attention. His cultivation was close to the level 9 fairy realm, and his fleshly body could lift 91 stones. Many people couldn't help but sigh. In fact, Xiao Qingfeng was a talented person, and if he was given enough time, he would have a high chance of advancing to the level 9 fairy realm. In fact, he might even become a divine master in the future. However, it was a pity that he had made a mistake and was punished by the great palace master. Even if he managed to defeat Su Yu today, he would still be expelled from the sanctum. The 2 lesser palace masters sighed quietly, while their hearts became gloomy. Even though Xiao Qingfeng's behavior was vile, such a punishment was still a loss to the outer sanctum. Time elapsed quickly, and it was soon Su Yu's turn again. This time, he once again attracted a lot of attention. It was unknown how much power Su Yu could release from his fleshly body. It wasn't just the smiling youth, junior sister He, Lao Ai, Wei Jing, the three palace masters, as well as Xiao Qingfeng. Su Yu, come onto the stage. The alluring cabinet master stared at Su Yu. Just like last time, you must use your whole power. Otherwise, the sword body might detect it. Su Yu nodded and looked at the pile of stones on the ground. He pondered for a moment before he grabbed a large number of stones. In the end, he managed to get 39 stones. His power is close to 4 elephants. It should have been surprising that a level 3 fairy possessed such a fleshly body, but when it appeared on Su Yu's body, no one could exclaim in admiration. Then, Su Yu's right hand continued grabbing the stones, and he easily grabbed all 49 of them. The power of the 5 elephants. Palace Mistress Kong Chan revealed a satisfied look. Palace Master Hua smiled kindly. Hee, what a good seedling. His Zhenqi is powerful, and his physical body has also reached the power of 5 elephants. With more nurturing, he will definitely become a genius of his generation. Only the great palace master remained silent and observed Su Yu calmly. After a short while, Su Yu picked up 50 stones, just as the crowd had expected, causing many people to exclaim in surprise. However, what shocked them even more was that Su Yu still didn't stop, and he continued grabbing them. 53, 54, 55 yuan. Heavens! His fleshly body is as powerful as 5 elephants and a half. It's even more powerful than his cultivation base. However, the crowd gradually quietened down, as they realized that 5 elephants and a half was far from Su Yu's limit. 57, 58, 59. At this moment, the crowd was silently counting. At this moment, many people swallowed their saliva in hatred. Would he be able to reach the power of 6 elephants soon? Thump! Su Yu picked up a stone. At this moment, the crowd, who had been silent for a long time, let out shocked cries. 6 elephants! A level 3 fairy managed to cultivate the power of 6 elephants. How is this possible? However, what dumbfounded them was that Su Yu still didn't stop, and he continued to pick up stones. It was only when he reached the 65th stone that Su Yu furrowed his brows and gave up. The alluring cabinet master, who was the judge, couldn't describe what she was feeling now. How was this a level 3 fairy in front of her? He was clearly a little monster that couldn't be killed. If any level 6 fairy ran into Su Yu, he would surely be taught a lesson. 6 elephants and a half. How did he manage to cultivate it? The crowd sucked in a breath of cold air. How could they know that Su Yu still had real spirit dragon veins, which he hadn't used yet? Otherwise, his power would have reached the level of 7 elephants and a half. Xiao Qingfeng's expression became slightly grave, but he still wore a relaxed expression. It's a pity that there's still a great disparity between us. A grave look appeared on the smiling youth's face as he took a deep breath and said, "He's really a freak. Just this alone is enough for him to fight Jian Wuxing. I think that we don't need to continue probing him, so let's go back and report this matter." Junior sister He bit her lip and said, "Let's wait for a while, as there are still challenges ahead. It's rumored that he will fight Xiao Qingfeng, and that will be the best time to observe his fighting prowess." The smiling youth was left helpless, so he could only stay behind. The 2 lesser palace masters were astonished. How did Su Yu cultivate? How did he get such a powerful body? The 10th area was once again the center of attention because of Su Yu's test. The alluring cabinet master's face lit up as she announced the end of the 2nd test. Her expression became grave as she said solemnly, "The last test will be a practical test. The people with odd numbers among you can choose one of the other half to challenge. You just need to throw your identity badge in front of him." Walala! Several thousand people instantly threw their badges, which were filled with jade badges. What was strange was that more than 100 badges were thrown at the same place at the same time. "Supreme Central Demon, I will challenge you!" get lost. The person who will challenge him is me. All of you, get out of my way. I will challenge the central demon in the name of love, and I will fight him for Bing Wuxin." As they shouted angrily, many identity badges piled up into a small mountain in front of Suyu. As Suyu looked at their eyes, which were filled with raging fighting spirit, his mind became chaotic. "All of you, get lost." At this moment, a cold snort echoed from the crowd. "If I don't challenge him, it won't be your turn." Such a familiar voice silenced all of the challengers, and they all made way for him. Xiao Qingfeng, who was 30 meters away from Suyu, had his hands clasped behind his back. A cold glint appeared in Suyu's eyes, and he nodded slightly. "That's true. Only after I get rid of you will I have the leisure to fight the others." Chapter 831. As the two of them looked at each other, the people around them made way for them, leaving enough space for their fight. As the challenge was imminent, everyone had different thoughts. In the audience seats, the smiling youth and junior sister, he were observing the fight. Suyu's true power was the standard to determine whether he could really fight Jian Wuxing to a draw. "Senior brother Lu, why don't you guess how many moves Suyu can take from Xiao Qingfeng?" Junior sister, he asked as she stared at Suyu. Senior brother Lu looked at Suyu and didn't reply immediately. Seeing senior brother Lu fall silent, junior sister, he said in surprise, "What? Could it be that senior brother Lu thinks that this person has a chance of winning?" Senior brother Lu remained silent for a long time, then looked at the outer sanctum's great palace master and shook his head. "I'm afraid that it's impossible. The difference between their vital energy and body tests is too great, so it's almost impossible for him to win. I'm just wondering, why did the great palace master arrange for them to fight? There's no suspense in their fight, and Suyu will surely lose in less than 10 moves." Junior sister, he then said, "The great palace master probably wanted to spare Xiao Qingfeng's life. After all, he's a genius ranked 10th in the outer sanctum, and it would be a pity to kill him. Expelling him from the sanctum would also be considered a mercy. That's why he arranged for such a weak opponent like Suyu to fight." Senior brother Lu nodded. "That's the only plausible explanation." Lao Ai and Wei Zheng were paying close attention to this fight, especially Lao Ai. If Suyu displayed outstanding fighting prowess, he would surely be able to defeat Jian Wuxing, and this news would surely reach the right palace master's ears. This was what Lao Ai didn't want to see the most. If the right palace master learned that he had offended such a genius repeatedly and caused him to join the left palace master's camp, he would surely be punished. As for Wei Zheng, he still didn't believe that it was possible for Suyu to fight Jian Wuxing, who was in the same cultivation realm as him. Jian Wuxing was a legend pursued by countless people in the Red Blood Palace, and no one could surpass her. Even the Red Blood Palace's past palace masters couldn't compare to her. Even Jian Wuxing, who was only a grade 3 fairy, was enough to scare grade 9 fairies. Unless Su Yu's fighting prowess surpassed that of a grade 9 fairy, it would be difficult for him to defeat Jian Wuxing. Judging from the two tests, the vital energy of a level 5 fairy and the body of a level 6 fairy were far from meeting the requirement. Forget it. Regardless of whether he managed to fight Jian Wuxing to a draw or not, I'll give him another chance. With his level, he is qualified to become the Left Palace Master's disciple, Wei Jing thought to himself. The Left and Right Palace Masters looked at the Grand Palace Master meaningfully as they watched the battle that was about to unfold. In the end, the Great Palace Master was still benevolent and deliberately gave Xiao Qingfeng a way out. As long as Xiao Qingfeng could defeat Su Yu, he would be able to leave the Red Blood Palace alive. After all, he was a person who cherished talent. The alluring cabinet mistress also cast a glance at the Great Palace Master. She understood his intentions clearly. She also didn't have high hopes for Su Yu's victory in this fight, as the disparity between them was too great. However, even though Su Yu had been defeated, she still had high hopes for his future. The two tests were enough to show that Su Yu had great potential, and he still had many secrets about his cultivation. If he were to be nurtured, he would definitely become a strong martial artist in the outer sanctum in the future. The alluring cabinet master collected her thoughts and announced solemnly, "The competition will now officially begin. Everyone, challenge the opponents you have chosen." The crowd immediately chose an empty space and prepared to start the competition. Su Yu and Xiao Qingfeng looked at each other from a distance, while their auras surged toward each other. Hatred appeared on Xiao Qingfeng's face as he said, "My bright future was ruined by you. Do you know how much I hate you?" As the outer sanctum's 10th expert, it was almost certain that he would become an almighty divine master and enter the inner sanctum to further his cultivation. However, Su Yu had plotted against him and caused him to lose everything. If he left the sanctum, he wouldn't be able to find a great faction like the Red Blood Palace, which would allow him to continue his cultivation. It could be said that Su Yu had ruined his future. How deep was his hatred? He who used Shaoli and tried to kill me? Who sent 2 inner sanctum disciples to kill me in the elegant Spirit Mountain? Who used Shangguan Yunk and tried to join hands with Lao Ai to kill me? It seems like it was you, great genius Shao. I just gave you a taste of your own medicine and plotted against you once. Yet you still hate me so much? Since you plotted against me 3 times in a row, shouldn't I hate you even more? Su Yu spoke in mockery. Xiao Qingfeng only had himself to blame for his current predicament. Although he had a grudge against the Xiao family's master, he wasn't narrow-minded enough to deal with all of the Xiao family's disciples in the outer sanctum. However, Xiao Qingfeng plotted against him several times and didn't let him off the hook. So, Su Yu couldn't be blamed for this. Have I ever harmed you? Have you ever harmed me like this? Xiao Qingfeng shouted at him. Su Yu snorted disdainfully. What a joke. If you had succeeded, would I still be alive and talking to you? You really don't know your place. Xiao Qingfeng was left speechless, and his expression became ice-cold. Cut the crap. I will defeat you with a single punch, and I won't let down the great palace master's kindness toward me. Even the outsiders could understand the great palace master's kindness to Xiao Qingfeng, so Xiao Qingfeng himself could understand it even more clearly. Kindness? You really want it, but you still haven't asked me about it. How could Su Yu let him live? Su Yu wanted to settle all debts with him. Xiao Qingfeng didn't say anything else. He just snorted softly and dashed forward. He then pulled back his right fist and thrust it forward when it was 3 feet away from Su Yu. This fist contained 80% of his power, which was 7 elephants' power. Su Yu, who only had a fleshly body of 6 elephants and a half, wasn't a match for him. However, Su Yu was still calm, and while the crowd was surprised, he didn't retreat. Instead, he took a step forward, raised his right fist, and faced Xiao Qingfeng's fist head-on. Is he courting death? Even if he uses his whole body's power, he still won't be a match for Xiao Qingfeng. His arm will probably be shattered. The crowd was surprised by Su Yu's strange reaction. His fleshly body of 6 elephants and a half would end up in a miserable state when facing a 7 elephants' power. His arm would probably be shattered. What a fool. Even if he wants to lose the competition, he doesn't need to go to such extremes, does he? Does he really think that Xiao Qingfeng is afraid of the great palace master and doesn't dare to injure him? Wei Jing raised his brows. He couldn't help but reconsider whether he should give Su Yu a chance to join the left palace master's camp. Such a person, who didn't have any fighting experience, wasn't qualified to join the left palace master's camp. The crowd was astonished. Even Xiao Qingfeng was startled for a moment, but he soon understood what Su Yu was thinking. He laughed nastily and said, "It's true that I don't dare to injure you on purpose, but since you came here and courted death, the great palace master can't blame me for your injuries." As he spoke, his fist didn't lose any of its momentum, and it bombarded Su Yu's right fist. He had expected that Su Yu's right fist would crush his arm due to its overwhelming power and leave him with an injury that was neither light nor heavy. This way, he could take revenge for Su Yu before he left the sanctum. However, when their fists collided, Xiao Qingfeng's expression changed drastically. The scene where he had expected Su Yu to be easily repelled didn't occur. Instead, his opponent's fist contained a 7 elephants power. The boundless power surged out of it and went into Xiao Qingfeng's right fist. In an instant, Xiao Qingfeng came to a sudden realization, and he shouted angrily, "You hid your power." When he looked at Su Yu's wrist, he saw a faint golden blood channel flickering on it. The first dragon's body was what he had been hiding. Su Yu's sudden eruption of power caught Xiao Qingfeng off guard. Although he managed to condense his whole body's power in time, he was still repelled and sent flying back several meters. He felt a piercing pain in his bones. If his bones weren't so hard, his arm would have probably been shattered by the previous attack. Even so, his arm was still shivering, and he had suffered a great loss. The crowd went into an uproar. "It's impossible! Did he hide his power? Doesn't this mean that his power reached 7 elephants?" The crowd exclaimed in surprise. How did Su Yu manage to cultivate such a powerful body? Wei Jing opened his mouth. He had assumed that Su Yu was stupid, but it turned out that he had been hiding his power. Such a scene was beyond everyone's expectations, including the 3 palace masters. A body refining technique that can raise 1 elephant's power? It seems like it's at least a low-grade legendary cultivation technique, the great palace master muttered to himself. The 2 young palace masters looked at each other at the same time, both feeling a little surprised. Su Yu's performance was too dazzling, and it had surpassed his performance in the exam. On the stage, Su Yu lowered his right hand and asked, "Is this what you meant by defeating me with a single strike?" Xiao Qingfeng was infuriated. He had assumed that he would be able to defeat Su Yu with just 80% of his power, but he didn't expect that Su Yu would be able to hide a part of his power from him. "Why are you so complacent? The real fight will begin soon." Xiao Qingfeng shook his hand. His arm had been injured by the previous attack, and he couldn't use his whole body's power. So, he could only crush Su Yu in other aspects. Clang! A soul-stirring sound echoed out as a pitch-black longsword appeared in Xiao Qingfeng's hand. The black longsword emitted a ghostly energy, which made people shudder with fear. At the same time, the sword's body started wriggling. At first glance, it seemed like a living creature. This sword's name is Pentaghost, and once it's used, it will surely bleed. If you are sensible, you should immediately admit defeat. Otherwise, even I might not be able to control this sword, Xiao Qingfeng said. Su Yu swept his gaze over it. The sword's spiritual pressure was astonishing. It was a low-grade spiritual artifact, but it was a top-notch one. In terms of might, it wasn't any weaker than a middle-grade spiritual artifact. Xiao Qingfeng is going all out, and he even took out the Pentaghost. If he holds this sword, even some newly advanced level 9 fairies might not be a match for him. This sword is extremely evil. I've also heard about it. It's rumored that it was once the Ghost Clan's weapon, and it was made from the bones of a divine master realm demonic beast. It has an extremely evil nature, and once it's unsheathed, even its master might not be able to control it completely. When senior brother Lu and junior sister He saw this, anticipation appeared on their faces. Whether Su Yu can fight Jian Wuxing to a draw will depend on whether he can block this sword strike. Many people raised their throats and paid close attention to this sword strike. The other examinees in the same arena also stopped to watch the fight. Xiao Qingfeng's life and death would depend on this sword strike. Su Yu said calmly, "Attack me with your whole power. I can let you die in peace." Xiao Qingfeng shook his head and said with pity, "Ignorance is really terrifying. Since that's the case, then prepare to pay the price with your blood." Sizzle! Xiao Qingfeng slashed out with his sword, and a 30-meter-long black sword energy swept through half of the arena with a destructive force. It was extremely sharp, and as it cut through the air, it caused the air to tremble slightly. Su Yu didn't budge an inch, and when the sword energy swept over him, his whole body flickered with a black radiance, while a hideous black armor appeared on his body. At the same time, as Su Yu instilled his powerful vital energy into it, a black light barrier appeared on the surface of the armor. When the powerful sword energy struck the light barrier, it caused it to cave in, but it still couldn't destroy it. After the stalemate lasted for a moment, the sword energy weakened and was deflected by the light barrier. Su Yu didn't even have to fight back to defend himself. The Eternal Stone King armor used to be a high-grade spiritual artifact, but now it was damaged and only a half-finished product was left. In the past, he had needed the vital energy in crystals to activate the light barrier, but now Su Yu's vital energy was greater than the crystals, so his defensive power had risen by a great deal. Is this the Ghost Clan's defensive magical treasure? The expressions of the three palace masters changed slightly. The two lesser palace masters were bewildered, while the great palace master was also surprised. They didn't expect that Su Yu would have such a powerful defensive magical treasure, and it seemed like its grade was quite high. He managed to block that sword strike. Someone exclaimed in surprise. Xiao Qingfeng obviously didn't hold anything back, but he still couldn't deal with Su Yu. Lao Ai clenched his fists tightly, while killing intent surged in his heart. He mustn't let the right palace master know about this person's existence. Junior sister, he was startled. What a shocking defensive magical treasure. This lad still had such a magical treasure. Now, I'm starting to believe that he can really fight Jian Wuxing to a draw. It would be difficult for Jian Wuxing to break through such a defensive magical treasure. Senior brother Lu heaved a sigh of relief. Then, we can go back and report this matter. This lad can really fight Jian Wuxing to a draw. Junior sister He's eyes unexpectedly lit up. Why are you in such a hurry? Let's wait and see the final outcome. At first, she disdained Su Yu, but now she was looking forward to the final outcome. Senior brother Lu asked in surprise. Junior sister do you think that he can win? Junior sister He stared at Su Yu, but didn't speak. On the stage. I'm sorry, but you aren't the only one who has such a treasure, Su Yu said with a faint smile. Xiao Qingfeng's eyes widened, while his pupils contracted. This is a damaged high-grade spiritual artifact? How did you get it? He couldn't understand how a level 3 fairy could possess such a shocking treasure. Do you think that I will answer you? Su Yu asked. Xiao Qingfeng's expression became gloomy, as Su Yu unexpectedly possessed such a powerful magical treasure. However, this still wasn't the end of it. Come again. Xiao Qingfeng finally became serious, and as he observed it carefully, he discovered that there was a fist-sized hole in Su Yu's Eternal Stone King armor's abdomen. Xiao Qingfeng's eyes lit up as he approached Su Yu with his sword, then thrust it at the hole in the Eternal Stone King armor's abdomen. Su Yu sighed inwardly. The Eternal Stone King armor's weak point was too obvious for fairies, and it was a fatal weakness for divine masters. So, he must quickly repair it. As he thought of this, a small golden sword flew out of Su Yu's sleeves, and he used it to block the black sword's tip. Crack! An intense sound of metal colliding echoed out, and it shook everyone's eardrums. The Heavenly Orchid Silver Bamboo Sword was a semi-manufactured spiritual artifact, and Su Yu hadn't used it for a long time. What a hard small sword! It didn't leave even the slightest flaw on it. Xiao Qingfeng was slightly surprised. After all, the Pentaghost was a top-notch low-grade spiritual artifact, and there were few semi-manufactured spiritual artifacts that it couldn't destroy. Su Yu's palm became slightly numb. Although he had managed to block the sword, Xiao Qingfeng's power still managed to injure his palm. Humph! You really have many treasures, but if you think that my Pentaghost is only at this level, then you are really looking down on me. Xiao Qingfeng calmed down and revealed a sinister smile. Upon witnessing such a sight, many people sighed. It seems like Su Yu has also been duped. This battle has already come to an end. As Wei Zheng looked at such a sight, he felt more at ease for an unknown reason. He then said calmly, "It has come to an end." The two lesser palace masters nodded. It's also time for it to come to an end. It wasn't easy for Su Yu to fight until now. Su Yu was startled, and a great sense of danger welled up in his heart. Sizzle! As a sharp sound echoed out, the black sword in Xiao Qingfeng's hand unexpectedly disintegrated. It had disintegrated into many sharp thorns, which then joined together to form a unique weapon that was shaped like a thorn. It seemed like a whip, but it wasn't as long as a whip. Moreover, the thorn was surprisingly a living creature. After it was blocked by the heavenly orchid silver bamboo sword, the thorn went around the small sword and penetrated the eternal Stone King armor's gap. All of this happened in an instant, and it caught everyone off guard. It seems like I won. Xiao Qingfeng revealed a calm smile, as if he had just won. At this moment, the outcome of the battle had already been decided. However, Xiao Qingfeng's expression changed slightly when he saw that Su Yu didn't seem surprised at all. Instead, he curled up the corners of his mouth and said, "Well, is that the case? Why do I feel like I was the one who won?" Chapter 832. Xiao Qingfeng's reaction was quite fast, and he moved his shoulder without giving it a second thought. Even so, Xiao Qingfeng still felt a sense of crisis, and when he quickly turned his head around to take a look, he saw that a similar small golden sword had already reached his back. His heart would be penetrated by Su Yu before the thorns could pierce through it. Space attribute. Xiao Qingfeng's eyelids twitched. This sword possessed a faint space attribute, and it was because of this that it had appeared behind his back quietly. In the face of imminent danger, just as Xiao Qingfeng was about to be killed, the thorny vines in his palm suddenly disintegrated once again. They turned into sharp barbs that formed a thick shield that protected Xiao Qingfeng's back. Clang! As a soft sound echoed out, the small golden sword was sent flying away. It deviated slightly from its original trajectory and brushed past Xiao Qingfeng's right arm, causing blood to blossom on it. Such a scene caused the crowd to exclaim in admiration. In just a few breaths' time, the situation between the two of them had been reversed. Swoosh! Su Yu flicked his fingers, causing the two small golden swords to fly back into his palm. Su Yu was slightly surprised when he saw the shield on Xiao Qingfeng's back. In fact, when he had first seen it, Su Yu had already noticed that this weapon was quite strange. The sword had a soul hidden within it, which meant that it was a living being. This was why Su Yu wasn't surprised that it had suddenly disintegrated and turned into thorns. He just didn't expect that his well-prepared strike would be blocked by the Pentaghost. Xiao Qingfeng had just survived a calamity, and he was quite distressed. The previous sword strike was too dangerous. He had assumed that he would surely be able to defeat Su Yu once he took out the Pentaghost, but he didn't expect that Su Yu would have so many semi-manufactured spiritual artifacts. When he heard the uproar outside, Xiao Qingfeng became even more anxious and grave. If he had been careless and couldn't end the fight quickly, then now, even though he had taken out the Pentaghost, he still couldn't defeat Su Yu. So, how could he remain calm and composed? His initial confidence that he could easily defeat Su Yu had disappeared long ago. He realized that he had underestimated Su Yu, and if he didn't use his whole power, he might end up suffering an unexpected defeat. Once he was defeated, the great palace master would surely fulfill his promise and take his life. His heart was unprecedentedly heavy, and the carefree expression on his face had disappeared. "It seems like I must use my ultimate technique," Xiao Qingfeng said in a deep voice. The Pentaghost in his palm disintegrated once again. This time, it wasn't in the shape of a sword or a thorn. Instead, it condensed into a fist-sized ball. The expressions of the people who were familiar with the Pentaghost gradually became grave. The Pentaghost's ultimate form. Has Xiao Qingfeng been forced into a corner? I'm afraid that Su Yuxian is in danger. Even someone who has just entered the level 9 fairy realm would find it difficult to resist the Pentaghost's final form. Among the 10 great outer sanctum disciples, only the 4 great demons would be able to resist it. As for the others, they would be in danger. While the audience was still discussing, Xiao Qingfeng had already made his move. Inescapable net. As Xiao Qingfeng shouted in a low voice, he imbued his vital energy into the black sphere and compressed it, then threw it at Su Yu. When it was 100 feet away from Su Yu, the compressed vital energy in the black ball suddenly exploded. The powerful force of the explosion disintegrated the black sphere, turning it into black barbs that numbered in the thousands. At a glance, it was as if a hornet's nest had been poked open. In an instant, the sky and earth were covered with ferocious black barbs. Furthermore, with the support of the explosion, his speed was astonishingly fast. There was no way he could escape the barbs that filled the sky. The damaged Eternal Stone King armor could not withstand such a concentrated barrage of attack. The outcome had already been decided. The crowd felt like they could already hear Su Yu admitting defeat. However, the voice that they had expected didn't appear. Instead, a calm and composed expression appeared before the crowd's eyes. Su Yu let out a breath and took back his 2 small swords. He had unexpectedly given up on his weapons at such a critical moment. How could he admit defeat so easily? The crowd was startled. Someone sighed and said, "It's already amazing that he was able to force the level 8 fairy realm, Xiao Qingfeng, to use the Pentaghost's final form. Even if he admits defeat, he will still be able to look down upon the crowd." Su Yu didn't leave the arena in front of the crowd's admiring and regretful gazes. Instead, he faced the barbs that filled the sky. Wait, it seems like he doesn't want to admit defeat. Did you all feel the change in the world's spiritual energy in his surroundings? Someone with sharp senses asked. Well, it seems like it's true. The world's spiritual energy in his surroundings is starting to go berserk, and it seems like it's flowing toward him. Try sensing it again. It isn't just the world's spiritual energy that is flowing toward him, as even the air itself is flowing toward him. While the crowd was still astonished, the air in a 300-meter radius around Su Yu was flowing toward him. This caused the air in the 300-meter radius to become a vacuum. The air that had gathered around Su Yu started revolving around him. It was dancing in the air, while it was being compressed unceasingly. Since it was being compressed so intensely, a pitch-black color had appeared. If one looked at it from a distance, it would seem like a black cloth was revolving around Su Yu. Most of the fairies present could feel an aura emanating from the cloth. What kind of cultivation technique is this? Why is it so powerful? The crowd asked in surprise. The pupils of the 3 palace masters, senior brother Lu, junior sister He, Lao Ai, and Wei Zheng all contracted. The expressions of the Demon Mountain's 4 demons also changed at the same time. It's a middle-grade legendary cultivation technique, the first level's top class. Bing Wuxin said word by word, her pretty eyes flickering with fighting spirit. Gongsun Wuxie's expression became serious for the first time, while her purple gem-like eyes flickered with a strange light. He unexpectedly hid such a divine technique. He really hid it well. Tian Renyao's eyes flickered with an extraordinary splendor, while his face became flushed. I knew that Brother Yuxian was really amazing. Bai Shanliang's expression changed greatly as he looked at Su Yu. I didn't know that he was this powerful. Although they acknowledged Su Yu, they had never acknowledged his power. In their eyes, he was only at the level 5 fairy realm. In a sense, they had assumed that they were supporting Su Yu. However, what they didn't expect was that Su Yu's fighting prowess was on par with theirs. His fighting prowess startled the outer sanctum's disciples. The black cloth was condensed to its pinnacle, while the barbs that filled the sky swept over. Su Yu's starry eyes shone with a sharp light, and as he pointed at the sky, the black cloth that was revolving around him started spreading out in all directions. At first glance, a circular black shock wave swept over the space within a 300-meter radius. The barbs, which had erupted out, were like black wasps that were being extinguished by the black shock wave. In the twinkling of an eye, the whole sky was swept away, and not even a single barb was left behind. Vaguely, a mournful scream could be heard. It was the soul hidden in the pentaghost, which had been annihilated by the destructive shock wave. The black shock wave didn't lose its momentum, and it continued sweeping toward Xiao Qingfeng. Xiao Qingfeng had already lost his weapon, so he didn't have any defense left. Although he hurriedly revolved his vital energy to protect his body, he still couldn't resist the shock wave. Crack! The vital energy on the surface of Xiao Qingfeng's body was shattered, and he let out a miserable groan as he was swept away by the shock wave. He then spouted a mouthful of blood before he fell off the stage. The shock wave lingered on the stage for a long time, and it was only after a long while that it gradually dissipated. However, the shock that still lingered in the hearts of the crowd couldn't be erased. Su Yu had unexpectedly won. At this moment, no one could remain calm. It turned out that Su Yu was so powerful. It turned out that the central demon's power was so great. The Outer Sanctum's disciples, who had thrown their identity badges at him and expressed their desire to challenge him, felt their hearts palpitate. They couldn't help but rejoice inwardly that they hadn't fought him. Otherwise, they would have ended up in an embarrassing state. Crack! Wei Jing subconsciously crushed a corner of the stone chair he was sitting on. His pupils contracted to the size of needles as he exclaimed, "He's so powerful!" His heart was filled with shock, as he had assumed that Xuelian had done him a favor by introducing him to the Left Palace Master's faction. It was only now that he realized what kind of powerful genius she had recommended. A level 3 fairy possessed a fighting prowess comparable to a level 9 fairy. There weren't many people in the inner sanctum with such a talent. He couldn't help but admit that his judgment, which he was so proud of, had really misjudged him. He had unexpectedly rejected such a monstrous genius. If the Left Palace Master learned that such a genius had slipped away in front of his eyes, he would surely be disappointed. Wei Jing quickly made up his mind, and he decided that he must have a talk with Su Yu again. Shock appeared on the faces of the two lesser palace masters. Su Yu had unexpectedly won. They looked at the great palace master at the same time. This competition was supposed to give Xiao Qingfeng a way out, but the outcome was beyond the great palace master's expectations. They couldn't help but worry about Su Yu, as they wondered whether the great palace master would fly into a rage. However, they heaved a sigh of relief when the great palace master revealed a gratified smile at the corners of his mouth. Not bad. While the two of them heaved a sigh of relief, they couldn't help but be surprised by the fact that Su Yu had unexpectedly received a not bad evaluation from the great palace master. The great palace master had been in charge of the outer sanctum for 100 years, and he had only ever praised one person. That person was Jian Wuxing's daughter, the inner sanctum's #1 expert, Bing Wuqing. Her name only differed by a single word from Bing Wuxing's, but they were two completely different people. She was the current generation's female genius, who was known by everyone in the 18 blessed and heavenly lands. Her status was even more illustrious, as she was the lifeless sword prefecture's prefecture king, Jian Wuxing's daughter, Bing Wuqing. It was rumored that half a year ago, she had fought against Lu Chui, who had just left the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. She was known as the 18 blessed and heavenly lands #1 female genius. No one knew the outcome of the battle, but news spread from the Purple Cloud Palace that Lu Chui had entered the Purple Cloud Palace's life and death secret realm to undergo a near-death training. As for Bing Wuqing, she went back to the Red Blood Palace and continued with her usual cultivation. The outcome of the battle could be discerned from this. Her fighting prowess rivaled the 18 blessed and heavenly lands #1 expert, Gu Taishu. In the past 100 years, the great palace master had only said such words to Bing Wuqing, and he hadn't said such words to anyone else. He was quite sure of Su Yu's performance. Below the stage, Xiao Qingfeng's mouth was filled with blood, and his eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Impossible! How could a middle-grade legendary cultivation technique's first level be cultivated to perfection without at least 20 years of cultivation or the guidance of a great teacher? Unless one was a genius with outstanding comprehension abilities, it was rare for one to comprehend a middle-grade legendary cultivation technique's first level to perfection in just 10 years. Most of them were guided by a great teacher, but Su Yu had just entered the outer sanctum, so how could he have gotten a great teacher? I can't accept this. Is Su Yu really just 20 years old? Great Palace Master, please uphold justice for me. Xiao Qingfeng was already at a critical juncture, so how could he be willing to lower his head? In fact, many people had their reservations about Su Yu's age. Was this old man, who seemed like an immortal, really a young genius like them? Now that Su Yu was in the limelight, many people were jealous of him. I strongly request that we use the outer sanctum's bright heart mirror to examine Su Yu's true age. As long as he is in front of the bright heart mirror, his true age will be revealed, as well as his appearance. Xiao Qingfeng was aware that Su Yu wouldn't be able to sneak into the outer sanctum because of his age. After all, his true age couldn't be faked. Right now, he only wanted to stall for time. Every second counted. Many people looked at the great palace master when they heard him. They all supported his proposal. If Su Yu was really a young genius like them, then they would have to accept him. However, if Su Yu was just an old man, then it wouldn't be strange for him to possess such a cultivation technique. Su Yu's heart shuddered, and he had an ominous feeling. Does the outer sanctum still have a mirror that can reflect my true age? This is far from good. Several days ago, he had used Su Yu's identity in the Elegant Spirit Mountain, and if he really went through the Bright Heart Mirror's examination, then his identity would surely be exposed. Moreover, he believed that the Red Blood Palace's higher-ups should know that Su Yu was the expert who had killed the Blood Emperor. Once his identity was exposed, it would be no different than a disaster for Su Yu. That's right, the Bright Heart Mirror can really determine his true age and his appearance. The Great Palace Master nodded slowly, causing Su Yu's heart to sink once again. Delight appeared on Xiao Qingfeng's face. However, the Great Palace Master's tone suddenly changed. However, before we determine his true age, we must first fulfill our agreement with you. Upon hearing him, everyone was shocked. Does he really want to put Xiao Qingfeng to death? Xiao Qingfeng's face was as pale as paper, and his whole body shivered. As he looked around, he suddenly noticed Lao Ai, who was among the spectators. It was as if he had just found his last hope. Senior brother Lao, quickly save me. Xiao Qingfeng rushed toward Lao Ai. He was terrified. Lao Ai's expression changed drastically as he wondered, how could I dare to get involved with Xiao Qingfeng at such a time? He waved his sleeves and sent out a strong wind, which pulled Xiao Qingfeng back into the arena. He then said coldly, "You are ridiculous. You made a grave mistake first, and you didn't manage to defeat Su Yuxian. So, you should accept the Great Palace Master's punishment. So, how could I save you? You only have yourself to blame for this." Upon hearing this, Xiao Qingfeng's heart became ice-cold. He had been abandoned by everyone. It was all because of his carelessness that he had fallen into Su Yu's trap. As he thought of this, anger welled up in his heart. He then looked at Su Yu ferociously and said, "It's all your fault. I will kill you first." Su Yu clasped his hands behind his back and wore a calm look on his face. However, when he had just taken a step forward, a blue light beam penetrated his chest. Xiao Qingfeng could only see a blue feather fly out of his chest and return to the Great Palace Master's palm. If you knew that such a day would come, then why did you act in the first place? The Great Palace Master collected the feather calmly. He didn't even spare a glance at Xiao Qingfeng, who was lying on the ground in a pool of his own blood. The Outer Sanctum's 10th-ranked disciple had just died in the arena. There weren't many people who sympathized with him, as he had framed an innocent disciple, Shangguan Yunk, and had almost crippled his cultivation. No matter how one looked at it, such a malignant tumor deserved to die. The crowd's attention was now focused on Su Yu. After this battle, Su Yu's name would spread far and wide in the Outer Sanctum. Besides being a demon, his terrifying power would also leave a deep impression on the Outer Sanctum's disciples. Sigh. None of the 5 demons are weak. Many disciples who had tried to challenge Su Yu couldn't help but sigh. Wei Zheng's eyes lit up as he looked at Su Yu. Such a talent was hard to come by even in 100 years, so he must surely take him into the Left Palace Master's faction. As Wei Zheng looked at Xuelian, who was standing next to Su Yu and gazing at him, he couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth. Shortly after, the other region's competition tests came to an end one after another. All of the disciples' power had been recorded, and they would be compared with the previous season's power to determine whether they had made any progress. The Great Palace Master and the 2 Lesser Palace Masters stood up and prepared to leave. However, before they left, the Great Palace Master's gaze penetrated the crowd and fell on Su Yu. He then said calmly, "Although Shao Qingfeng is dead, what he said isn't without reason. So, come with me to take the Bright Heart Mirrors test, so that the Outer Sanctum's disciples will be convinced." Su Yu's heart sank when he heard this, as a great sense of crisis engulfed him. His expression became gloomy. If he took the test, his identity would surely be exposed,